It was just a strange booking ahead of a football match. The match was delayed. You know how passionate soccer fans can be.
Yes.
And then she
you can hear the passion in my throat, can't you?
Yeah, she had to sing in front of them, and
how did it go?
I don't think it went too well. She was giving out about the fans. I think I didn't read up too much about it.
All right. But should the boys and girls, the fans, will be all G'd up for the get on with football? Yeah, I don't think she thinks she's at a concert or something.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work for that particular sport.
No, I don't think so.
All right, Lee, have a good Wednesday. Enjoy the weather if you can, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. It is the 9 till noon show now, and at 9 o'clock it's time for a news update, and it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A Donegal deputy has claimed that the HSE has not only failed vulnerable people and their families in the county, but has also failed frontline staff and left them abandoned. Deputy Thomas Pringle was questioning Public Expenditure Minister Michael McGrath on the Dáil after further concerns were raised in recent days that more allegations of sexual abuse could emerge in Donegal on foot of the Brandon report and subsequent assessments that remain unpublished. Minister McGrath told Deputy Pringle that work is ongoing to bring forward the publication of the Brandon report.
Minister Anne Rabbitte, who, as you know, has taken a very keen personal interest in relation to the matter, has been to Donegal and has had a series of meetings there and is most anxious that the full details in the Brandon report would be published as soon as possible. And again, just to make the point that Minister Butler is separately bringing forward a safeguarding bill, and she expects to have that bill before the Oireachtas before the end of this year.
The Dublin Airport Authority will be asked today for a guarantee that chaotic scenes and long queues experienced last weekend won't be repeated. 1,400 people missed flights on Sunday after thousands of passengers were forced to queue outside and inside both terminal buildings. Staffing shortages are being blamed. The DAA's CEO Dalton Phillips and the senior management team are due before the Oireachtas Transport Committee today. Committee Chair Kieran O'Donnell says they want complete assurance that this bank holiday weekend and the summer season will be different.
And we will be seeking guarantees, and we will be asking the direct question of Dalton Phillips and his management colleagues as to precisely what measures they're putting in place. In simple layman's terms, what happened over the weekend is they didn't have enough lanes open in either of the two terminals and not enough staff on duty to deal with the volume of passengers, which they should have known and they would have known.
Ferry services are resuming today in Inishowen. The Lochfoyle ferry service linking Greencastle and Magilligan and the Swilly ferry service connecting Buncrana and Rathmullen are fully operational as of today. Both services will operate 7 days a week. Cahirlock of the Inishowen Municipal District, Councillor Nicholas Crossan, says with people still very much opting for staycations, the ferry services will simply enhance the offering in the peninsula.
We in North Donegal and in the Inishowen Peninsula are very well placed to attract more tourists into here, and by God, we need them back into Inishowen and to enjoy Inishowen, and the ferry service can only help with that.
Weather now dry with sunny spells developing this morning. Highest temperatures today of 13 to 16 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Quilcha cares for Ireland's forests sustainably. As our country seeks to combat climate change, we'll do more. Our ambition is to create new forests, manage our existing forests for greater carbon capture, and provide more habitats to enhance biodiversity. We'll support creating new homes by delivering sustainable Irish wood products. And we'll increase the number of beautiful forest recreation spaces for everyone to enjoy. Quilcha, forests for climate, nature, wood and people. For a greener future for all.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard. Bringing full banking features. Delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9 on this Wednesday. It is the start of a new month. It is the 1st of June 2022. How are you keeping? It's a nice bright morning across most of the Northwest here this morning. I hope it's the same wherever you are. The lines are open for you to have your say. Of course, a lot of the newspapers today discussing the ongoing problems at Dublin Airport, and inevitably some Donegal people have been caught up with that. But many people use the bus service to get to Dublin, and there seems to be a lot of cancellations ongoing. I was sent a screenshot from Tuesday where all buses from Donegal to Dublin seemingly cancelled. Is that something you have an opinion on? Is that something that's affected you? I'd be very interested to hear more about that. 086 60 25,000. Of course, we are being pushed out of our cars. We're being encouraged out of our cars, expected to take public transport, but really, internally and to and from, what is the state of the public transport in Donegal? Is it worsening or getting better? 086 60 25,000. Let's look at the front of the papers this morning. The Donegal Post has a mock-up of the diamond in Donegal town. I'm not really quite sure about this. It's a lot of trees being planted, really seems to be what it is, but I just wonder, if it might ruin the aspect, as you look through the diamond in Donegal town. But anyway, it's going ahead. The people of Donegal town will be getting a diamond like no other this Christmas. Oh, it's a Christmas plan, all right. But this sparkler won't be on the long finger. It'll arrive in the shape of a newly refurbished centre of town, part of a €500,000 master plan that will see outdoor public space developed to suit its increased use as both a tourist focal point and a hub for all sorts of community activities. Fulcher Ireland, local community groups, businesses and individuals have combined their ideas to produce this vision for the future that will drive the sustainable development of these important public spaces. An online survey and public consultation days inviting locals to take a fresh look at the pier and diamond areas have provided many ideas for the development. Fulcher Ireland, local community groups, businesses and individuals combined to produce designs to complement what is already there in this vibrant market town and tourist destination. This location already, through its rich history, culture and natural amenities, will now see an extra sparkle to the finished product. And as I say, there's a proposed plan for it. Lots and lots of trees. I don't know. It looks all right. The Finn Valley Voice. The Finn Valley doesn't have to worry about radon. There may be faint stray wisps of carcinogenic gas radon reaching your home from the underlying rocks, but by and large they pose no great threat. That's according to new released maps published last week, which show the national radon threat postcode by postcode, and they obviously focusing on the Finn Valley area. Say levels there are low, though there can be pockets within those areas as well. I wouldn't discard, not that they are, sorry, I have to phrase this correctly, not that the paper is, but what we're being told is that every house should be checked, that these maps represent an overall situation in an area, but within that area you could be in a property that has radon levels that are damaging. But overall, the Finn Valley and much of Donegal too, not seeing particularly high levels. The Inish Times, there is mounting concern about the poor water quality in the Lisfannon area of Inishowen. Lawyer and former Senator Catherine Noon, who lives in the area, said sewage from the houses in Lisfannon was effectively going straight into Lough Swilly, a special area of conservation completely untreated. Miss Noon said the sewage is not going to a wastewater treatment plan, and all manner of things, as we've discussed in this programme too, being observed in the water and washed up on the shore. The Irish Independent tells us that there is no good news as it relates to the cost of fuel, and the latest announcements of embargoes from Europe on Russia is only, that's not just Europe of course, but the sanctions as it relates to the use of their gas and oil, well, it's going to drive the price of fuel up. There's a huge demand on fuel in America. That's also driving the price up. Petrol and diesel very likely to go over €2 a litre. In fact, it seems almost inevitable. So we read on here, just weeks after diesel broke the €2 a litre mark, now petrol prices have breached that barrier. Now, I don't think, for the most part, diesel is over €2 a litre in much of the Donegal. I'm open to correction. I don't travel all of the county. I know some parts it is above, and I've seen petrol above 2 litres as well, further south in the county. But anyway, a surge in demand in the US in recent weeks has increased wholesale prices and led to rises at Irish filling stations. Many now charge more than €2 a litre, although the national average stands at 191.9. Meanwhile, diesel, which first breached the €2 ceiling in March, now has a national average price of 194.6 pence per litre, or euro per litre, I beg your pardon. While diesel prices have retreated slightly, they're expected to go back up again, dealing another blow to hard-pressed customers. The latest surge in fuel comes as inflation hits a near 40-year high, and for many people, but not all people, the heating perhaps not having to go on as much as it did in the winter, and we might get a respite for the next couple of months, but we're going to face into a winter where the cost of getting to and from work or wherever you might be travelling and heating your home is going to go up and up. And of course, The solution to that is electric cars and retrofitting, but with far more strain on our finances, achieving those goals couldn't be further away. It's just not going to work out very well, is it? The Irish Times tells us about how we're going to fare as a nation in relation to achieving our climate goals. It doesn't make for good reading. It's no surprise either. I think most of us, as we were talking in the early 20s, about these ambitious plans for 2030, even simply the amount of electric cars they wanted on the roads, I think most of us knew that's unachievable. Firstly, because of the cost for many, although they are getting more affordable. The range for many, though they are increasing in range. But where do you bloody charge them? We still don't even have a decent electric vehicle charging network. And I don't think, is anyone plugging in the plug-in hybrids? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, between that, our transport situation and agriculture, we are not going to meet our carbon budgets. We'll read on here. Failure to date to cut greenhouse gas emissions in the agriculture and transport sector means Ireland is unlikely to meet its carbon budgets in the coming decade, according to the EPA. It says there is a significant gap between the budgets and projected emissions, and that the pace they are being reduced at does not meet the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's recent call for now or never action. The government is due to agree sectoral emission ceilings in coming weeks to apply across the economy up to 2025. The EPA said urgent implementation of all climate plans and policies, plus further new measures, will be needed for Ireland to have any chance of meeting a legally binding 51% emissions reduction target by 2030. But look, much of the public transport is still dirty fuel. We are continuing our use of solid fuel to generate electricity. That's been extended out, even though it was supposed to be reduced. We're not making great inroads in switching to electric cars. And as I said before, not only can many of us not retrofit our homes, but B, many within the industry believe it's not achievable in the time, or what is being proposed would be effective enough to, make a huge impact. Laura Burke, the agency Director General, is to tell the EPA's annual climate conference today these projections show the scale of policy development and implementation needed to match the ambition of our Climate Act 2021 and carbon budget targets. But look and we know the situation up here, but they can't even, if they want to ban turf, they can't even do that, right? And a lot of people in this county are very happy about that, but they can't get that over the line for fear of a huge backlash and backbench revolt. So how do you think the rest of it's going to go? All right, the Irish Daily Mail, DEA chief took off for Saudi as crisis unfolded. It's exactly what I would have done. I'm being paid hundreds of thousands of euro to run a national airport. What's about to hit the fan. What do? You fly off to the UAE, don't you? You had a bit of sun, have a few pints. He didn't stay there long, though, in all fairness to him. The CEO of the DAA, Dalton Phillips, flew out of Dublin Airport on Saturday night after the passenger crisis had started to unfold. Mr. Phillips was part of a DAA, formerly known as the Dublin Airport Authority team, who were travelling on to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia on Sunday. The DAA refused to clarify Mr. Phillips' flight arrangements last night, but confirmed that he flew out on Saturday night. The same day, huge queues stretched outside Terminal 1 as 50,000 passengers tried to catch flights. Mr. Phillip returned to Dublin Airport at some point on Sunday as the chaos escalated. Right, okay, on to the Irish Daily Star today. And almost 1/3 of you out there believe the government exaggerated COVID-19 deaths. It's according to new research from UCD. The research, which surveyed over 12,000 people across 6 European countries to investigate public trust and expertise, reveals the public's view on the pandemic, vaccination and their belief in various COVID-19 conspiracies. The study was commissioned by UCD as part of its European Commission Horizon 2020 project, Policy Expertise and Trust in Action. Despite 31% of people in Ireland thinking the number of deaths from coronavirus were exaggerated by government, the majority still expressed a strong belief in the scientific consensus that COVID-19 vaccines are safe. 3/4 of those surveyed in Ireland said it was true, that nearly all scientists agreed on this, with 1 in 7 thinking otherwise. The largest recorded figure across the nations involved in the study. Belief in this scientific consensus was virtually joint highest with the UK and higher than the average elsewhere of 69%. In Poland, the belief that the government inflated COVID-19 deaths was 43%. Ireland has the lowest percentage of people from 6 counties studied who believed the symptoms mostly blamed on coronavirus were linked to 5G network indication. So we had the lowest percentage of people that believed. that to be the case. 5G now pretty prevalent everywhere at this point. Right, okay. Gardaí have new powers. Never waste a good crisis, they say. New laws are to be passed to ensure Gardaí can access mobile phone data during investigations. It comes after Graham Dwyer challenged the use of data against him in the case that got him convicted. Dwyer was jailed in 2015 after he murdered childcare worker Elaine O'Hara to satisfy his desire to stab someone to death. Gardaí investigators traced the movements of phones used by Dwyer to contact Elaine, who was found dead in the Killikee Mountains in Dublin. A High Court threw that out. No, it didn't. A High Court found in favour of Dwyer and said the law used by Gardaí to access his phone data goes against EU rules. So that appeal of the decision went all the way to the European Court of Justice, which made a ruling in favour of Dwyer's legal team. And the ruling was a boost to Dwyer in his bid to overturn his murder conviction and has caused problems for Gardaí in other serious crime investigations. Now, Justice Minister Helen McEntee last night got approval from the Cabinet to introduce emergency legislation to fix the issues. The Minister intends to amend the Communications Act to enable Gardaí to continue to access phone data for national security purposes. She said, while I do not want to comment on the specifics of cases, I have been clear that I do not want a situation where Garda Síochána hands are tied behind their back. And lastly, world's first gives new liver transplant hope. A cancer patient is thriving after a world-first transplant with a damaged donor liver, which was repaired on a machine for 3 days. The breakthrough brings hope of saving hundreds of lives every year by producing more viable organs. The 62-year-old patient was in a race against time waiting for a donor as his cancer spread. The liver from a woman of 29 who died of sepsis was not initially accepted for donation as tests found it to be poorly functioning. But a team who developed a machine able to keep a liver alive longer than the usual 12 hours on ice were able to treat it with drugs while supplying it with a blood substitute. The patient received it in May last year and 12 months on is healthy. So that means that hopefully that'll be used across the board, that they'll be able to repair organs to make more of them more usable. All right, okay, that's a run through what's in the front or on the front of the newspapers this morning. We'll start making our own headlines after we take this break.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
What are you doing this June 11th?
Love to dance.
In a band? Like to act?
Love to draw. Want to get juggling?
Whether you want to run away with the circus or explore your hidden talents.
Come out and play this June 11th for Crinan and Oak, a national day of creativity for big and little kids.
Go to creativeireland.gov.ie to find out more. Crinan and Oak.
Supported by RTE.
As part of the National Food Waste Recycling Week, Donegal County Council, in partnership with Bryson Recycling and EnviroGrind Limited, will be having free compost giveaway events. Householders can collect free compost made from food and garden waste. Food waste recycling starter packs will also be available to support the use of the food waste recycling bin. Compost giveaway days take place on Wednesday, 1st of June, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in Carndonagh Recycling Centre and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. in Milford Recycling Centre. Thursday, 2nd of June, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in Lahey Recycling Centre and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Stranauler Recycling Centre. Householders should bring their own bags or container to collect the compost. Compost available while stocks last.
Okay, now we're returning to the story we covered earlier this year. It's as it relates to the treatment of some students at Scolmora. We are joined on the programme now by Nolene. Is it? Good morning, Nolene. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. Right, okay. So just recap from your perspective what the situation is at Scolmora.
Well, this morning, firstly, I want to start to say this isn't exactly the route I have wanted to go. But unfortunately, we have been left as parents now without answers after numerous emails being sent. So hence the reason I'm here today, speaking on behalf of myself, my son, and I'm speaking on behalf of a few other parents that have joined with me today on this. So basically, we started our journey in Schoolwear. So we did the first year, our boys had been assigned to the convent, which was the ASD unit. So it was, COVID had unfortunately hit then, and our boys had been transferred to a house in Buncrana, and it was called the Lake House. The boys had been transferred there, and speaking for myself, and I think a few other parents had been in the same situation, I was never notified of this change that was going to happen, and I had only found that out, so I had through another parent in my local village, and I let things go. I didn't bring it up as an issue. COVID happened. It was a lot of upheaval for everybody. I let the house happen, and the boys were safe. That was the main objective. However, as time went on, there was no communication made on when they were due to come back. But in February, we had all received a letter as parents after you had highlighted this again from the other parents' children that was based downstairs in that house. And in the letter, it had stated the reasons why they had taken this action to remove the boys from main campus.
Before we get to what they said in that letter, at that time when we were trying to help with this previously, the room that was used in the school, we were told it had been converted to a library.
That's what I had heard as well from your interview. So it had that the main convent where was the ASD, that had been transferred into a library, and it was being used for other mainstream students also. So it was. Now,
right. Okay. Do we know if that is the case?
That was the case. Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. So take us back then to the content of this letter, please, Nolene.
So the letter we all received, I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the parents of who's my son's in with in their class. They were based upstairs. We didn't cause any bother, so we didn't on the last case when the parents reached out, because their needs were much greater than our boys' needs at the time. It wasn't ideal for them. And basically, we were all under the same illusion that when the move was to happen back over to Schoolwear, our boys was going to be based back into the convent, which we first enrolled them into, which was designed and it was sold to us as an ASD unit. But unfortunately...
Can you just tell us what ASD stands for those who don't know, just so we're...
That's the autism spectrum, Greg, so it is. And you have such a wide spectrum when a child is labelled with ASD. No one child will ever be the same. So, my house, I could have certain issues going on. Somebody else's house could be much worse. Each child's different, so they are. But the reason this led to come on here now was I had a NEPS meeting with NEPS psychologist and my son's teacher on the 15th of May, and it was only the two people that was present. I had initially kind of assumed that it would have been maybe the principal as well, but that wasn't the case. I had been asking for clarification in that meeting about where or when was my son being put back into the convent, and, asking was he going to be walked around to familiarise himself, because it'd been out for quite a time now. And it wasn't being able to be clarified. Next had said that it wasn't her position to explain that, told me that it was Mrs. Grant that I would have to speak to, the principal. So I left the meeting. I had tried to find her that day. She wasn't available. I had left my name, my number, and asked for her to give me a call. On the Tuesday, I had still no call back. I rang the school again, and I was told she still wasn't available. So on Tuesday, I'd emailed her, and I'd asked her for a call. And on Wednesday, I had a phone call with herself. So this phone call went on, and I had basically asked, I had said to her, what was the plan? I wanted to prepare my son for going back in September, where he was going, what was happening, and she told me that she still hadn't decided that she was going to be deciding that during the summer, and she assured me that they were going to be returning to main campus, but where she didn't know, she was looking at either prefab or she was looking at classrooms in the main building, but they were going to be ASD classes.
So, pardon my ignorance on this, is it not best for all children that they be integrated?
Yes, integrated, but Greg, like as me and the other parents had said, when we were going to view like schools, when our like children were transitioning from primary to secondary, we had viewed all schools.
But what attracted you to Skulmora then in that context?
What sold us, basically, in my opinion, and I know that parents, like the other parents, is the same, is because Skulmora had the ASD unit.
Right.
Like they had the convent, and it was actually Miss Grant. We had met that day herself. We had viewed the two schools the one day, and what didn't appeal to me about the other school was a prefab, and we couldn't actually view it that day because it would have caused distress to the other students that was in that prefab. And it just didn't seem to be suitable for our child.
Okay, so just so we all understand, and sorry for these really basic questions.
No, that's fine.
Explain to me why, say for instance, if your child and others were in an ASD classroom on their own, presumably in the main building, versus in a classroom on their own in the Lake House campus, what do you see the difference between those? What is the problem with it being in the Lake House campus? I'm not saying there isn't a problem with it. I just want to make sure we all fully understand.
Ideally, the Lake House isn't. The Lake House at the minute isn't suitable, so it isn't.
Right.
It's a house at the end of the day. It's not a classroom. It's just a house with bedrooms. Our main focus is the convent. The convent had classrooms in it that were called ASD classes.
Okay.
Now, they have toilet facilities there. It's where the canteen is there. Now, if you base our children now, taking into consideration, they have been moved from the convent where they had settled in. They had a great setup there. So they had, if they, like, some of our students they be in mainstream. It's totally inclusion. They can go into mainstream if they want, but also if they're having a bad day, they don't have to go to that mainstream class if they don't want to. They can be in their safe place in the convent, and they can remain there with their SNA and their support teacher. This is the beauty of the convent, so it is. Whereas now, hearing that her plans is to be putting them into a mainstream classroom, you're not taking into consideration the noise effects of how them boys can handle it. Each child, as I said, is completely different. The hustle and bustle of it as well, when they're not used to that. And if that's not their safe place, where do they have when they don't have the convent as their base? Yeah. If you understand what I mean.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure everyone did, and you're making it clear to us. Yeah.
The students have, like, Miss Grant has actually spoke to maybe one or two of our students, and has explained that they're going to be on main campus, and the students have expressed their feelings. They don't want this. Each student has their own reason why they don't want it, and like I had sent them an email, so I had on the 19th of May, because I was getting over in the phone call and I was left. I was angry, hurt, annoyed. This has been going on 2 weeks, and I said, this isn't where I want to be. But the fact of her replies and her emails are very vague.
Well, I'm hoping to speak to the school directly rather than sort of I can't. You have an interpretation of this lady's communications, and I really need to speak to her directly. But I understand and continue expressing. But I just don't want to speak about someone who's not in on the call, even though we've invited them on. Stay where you are, and I'm going to come back to you. I want to bring Jackie in as well. Jackie, tell us how you view the situation.
Hello, Greg. Well, my son was told he would never go to secondary school. He was caught late on with the ASD. For my son, he has a lot of anxiety issues. His brain stops. He can't cope with noise. He can't cope with bustle. He does most of his classes with his support teacher and his SNA. He's heard the rumours. He's starting to worry. He's due to do his exams now. He can't sleep at night. He walks the floor. He's worried sick. My son is black and white. You tell him something, that's what you tell him. That's what he expects. So we were going to send him to a different school because a few of his other friends were going. But when we seen this unit, he was like, I want to go here, Mum. Yeah. And because we were told no secondary school, we were like, really? And he was, yeah, we want to go here. So we decided, they put in a new kitchen and all so that the children could cook there as well. They had done so much to this building for our children. They had promised it for the 5 or 6 years that they would be there. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Wow. And it messed with his head big time. He couldn't manage school. He couldn't manage anything. He still wears a mask to school. I think he's maybe one of the few that do.
Mm-hmm.
He's afraid he's going to get sick and give it to us and give it to the grannies, or he'll take it on to the support teachers.
Yeah.
He's petrified.
Mm-hmm.
So his anxieties are still at an all-time high. So we were sent down to the lake house, which was away from the school, which we weren't very happy about, but due to circumstances, that was okay. He wouldn't even go into the room if there was one other child in it. He would sit in a room in the middle part on his own, where the teacher would come and give him work. And when the room was empty, he would go up because he was afraid of getting another child sick.
Yeah.
And then he started to get a bit more comfortable back there. Things started to go a bit all right. And we were like, this is great. And exams is coming up, as you know. So we were planning for this. And he started getting into it again. He was getting excited.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, I'm hearing rumours, Mum. Where are we going next year? And I'm like, what? Because I hadn't heard nothing. And he goes, where's my classroom next year? We knew we weren't getting the lake house. We assumed we were going back to our original room. So that was all right. I said, I'll look into it. So as Nolene says there, she had contacted us. So I wrote an email to Miss Grant and I had arranged a meeting with her. She was very polite and courteous, I will say. She was really nice. We asked about the convent room and we were told that there's other ASD classes coming in. When we started, there was only one above us.
Mm-hmm.
Now there will be 6 as of September, which is great. It's great to see them excelling like this. But we were told we were not allowed to have what we were promised. So I was like, but why? And she says, well, there's wheelchair users coming in and the toilets are disabled friendly. And I was, well, that is totally understandable. Like, you know, the children need it. But what about our children? I says, what about upstairs in it? Because it's still in the same place, it's still in the same building, and the children could go there. No. My husband asked 5 times and we were just told no. There was no discussion of it. There was no nothing. We were told they were already relocated. And no, it was not an option.
So as far as you're concerned, where is your son going to be going to school then? In what space?
He's going into a wee dark hole at the back of the school, Greg. That is where he's going. That is one of the options. And it would be the only viable one for my son because he can't deal with a lot of people. He can't even do a classroom sitting. So we talked for a while and she suggested putting him into this room. But it all depends on all the children's needs, you know, not just mine.
Is there a difficulty, a balancing act here, Jackie, for the school, though, in terms of accommodating students with different needs and the space that's available to them?
No, I don't believe so, Greg. The ASD unit that they have has an upstairs with 2 or 3 rooms. They still have access to the bathroom. Those children should have what they were offered. The other children that are above my child's class, the year ahead, nothing has changed for them. Nothing changed last year for them. Everything went the same. Now, our son is talking about TY. That itself is a big deal. He even talked about going on work experience, which we never thought would happen.
And you're concerned then that if the situation isn't right for next year, that he'll regress. He won't, the progress that he clearly has made from your comments, that might be lost.
There's no might in it, Greg. He will probably not return to school next year, which I made very clear to Miss Grant, because we have tried so hard to get everything set up for him. Before COVID, he was excelling. He was talking to people. He was going out with the class. He was so into everything because of the support. A support teacher gave him an SNA. She is brilliant. I will utterly say she is brilliant. She has done so much for my son and other boys. And Dino has high respect for her. He's her IT guy. He'll do anything.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he needs a support teacher to get him to the fence. But the SNA makes him jump that fence.
Yeah. Nolene, you feel there's a bit of a gamble in speaking about this publicly as well, in that, you know, rather than strengthening your argument or improving the situation, it might disimprove it.
I'm just kind of at a loose end, to be quite honest, Greg, because as I explained, like, in my first email, after our phone conversation, like, I had been told in that conversation it was her right to move, like children's teachers and SNAs if she wishes. And I had put plenty of questions forward. I had explained my concerns as a parent, and I've also explained like the anxiety and stress. I want to know, what did that actually mean for my child's future? Like, at the end of the day, we've all chose that ASD unit because that's what was suited, and it has worked for us the last 3 years. And Greg, it takes an army of people, like of a support network, to build up your child. So to hear that on a call, and to worry that we are now, like all of us are in summer holidays, and we don't know where we stand as where they're being placed, or, you know, the last email had said she would meet us later in June. Like, that's really unfair to our children and ourselves, because the anxiety and stress of that alone, like from when I set my son out in the morning, it takes a bus driver and a bus escort. They communicate well with me, as in, how's my son today? Like, is he having a good day or is he a bad day? They can go and they can tell his, like, SNA and his teacher, like, the support network we have. And, like, only for them this last couple of years, like, I wouldn't have managed in my home. So, you know, there's a lot of things left unanswered. And at the end of the day, it's us that's left at home not being able to answer these questions.
And as you say, and you said it right from the get-go, and I get it, that this is the last route that you wish to go down, that you would have far preferred if this could have been resolved before having to speak publicly about it. And I understand that. I understand that.
Well, it all boils down, Greg, to simple communications and involve it in our consultations when it's regarding our son's education at the end of the day, like, because it affects not school life but home life as well.
Do you see the same, Jackie, that about consultation, discussion with the likes of yourself?
Well, Greg, with me, there was none. It was my son coming home and telling me there was rumours. That was the first time I was made aware that there was going to be a problem. I wasn't contacted. I knew they were leaving the lake out. I just assumed they were going into the convent where they had been. Other than that, there was no communication with the school about it at all.
Okay, right. Well, we are okay. Nolan says she seconds that. We've contacted the school. We'll try and get a response from them, and get a response from the likes of yourselves again to that response, rather than just leaving it lying there. Obviously, I don't know the makeup of the setup, so thanks both of you for helping me with that and helping the listeners who wouldn't sort of have that intimate knowledge of what's going on. We appreciate it, and we'll be back with any updates, Nolan and Jackie, but thanks for sharing the story with us this morning. I hope there's a resolution that suits everyone.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, take care of yourself. No problem. Okay. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number there. 086 60 25,000.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union. 9102127.
Welcome back to Checkout Line, where the new Lidl beef campaign is causing a bit of a stir. You were saying there, Cheese.
Well, Brad, Beef says he's got all these blasting here and awards. Which we've all won awards, like. There's no need to go on about it.
Yeah. Strawberry.
He says he's quite fresh, like, but I'm a Lidl strawberry. Like, come on.
Turnip, what did you have to say?
Come down with an award over there, and I come down and then up again with a ball, and they're done again it out in the morning.
Yeah, you're joking me. He did what?
Everyone loves Lidl beef. Well, almost everyone. Lidl. More for you.
At the 4-star Midlands Park Hotel, you have it all. Ireland at your fingertips. By day, explore Ireland's ancient East, a treasure trove of attractions. By night, award-winning dining and world-class hospitality. A destination complete with unrivaled facilities and an on-site spa. Visit midlandsparkhotel.com to find out more.
Have you bought your NCBI Radio Bingo book yet? Contribute to this fantastic charity and be in with a chance to win daily cash prizes of €400. Books are now available from your local retailer.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme. We welcome onto it now Anna, who is a tour guide. Good morning to you, Anna. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Greg, and I hope you're very well, and the sun is shining there as it is here.
It is always shining in one form or other. No, it's a beautiful morning. Right, okay, in terms of the tourism season, inbound tourism, it looks like it's going to be good this year. It looks like it's going to be good from different quarters too. Lots of cruise ships and what have you scheduled to arrive.
Yes, there are quite a number coming into Killybegs. There are also a couple for Greencastle and for Derry as well, Derry/Londonderry. And I just heard you mentioning the possibility of trees perhaps being planted in the square in Donegal town, which is a very famous spot for the tourists when they come into Killybegs. And my experience of that, trees are lovely, but I really don't think that the square in Donegal town would be the best location for them.
No, and I didn't want to stir anything up, but it's interesting you agree, because it sounds, if what it feels like to me is you have a lovely room, say you decorate a beautiful room with 4 lovely walls, and then you put, a massive something or other in the middle of the room that obscures your view of this room. It doesn't, and then obviously then the leaves will fall, and then so. But in terms of lines of sight, the beauty of the diamond to me, for someone who's been looking at it for well over 40 years now. It's just that when it opens out as you drive into it.
Yes, I think that's absolutely lovely. And trees, as I say, are lovely. But as you drive in from Killybegs, as you'll understand, well, you can see the castle quite clearly. But it's a great opportunity for guides to point out the various points of view of interest, as you come into Donegal, such as the shops, the hotels, the banks, the post offices, all that type of thing that they need to know when they're shopping around. And then after their shopping is finished, the nice seating area is there where they can wait, because generally the coach drivers are kind enough to pick up the tourists again in the town to see them, having to walk back down to where they park originally when they come in. And they generally stop outside maybe one of the hotels there. And people who are elderly, which many of them are, just like to take a seat there and wait for the coach to come back for them. And it's just a lovely, relaxing place for them to sit. So if there are trees there, all that is not possible. First of all, the view coming in to point out the various places, and afterwards for the places for the older people, or younger people for that matter as well, to sit and wait for their coach to come back.
Yeah, and in the illustration that's been created for it, half of the benches that you would sit out on are in shade, which might be fine for some people, but we're not exactly getting 40 degrees that you require shade. And as I say, if you look at the old pictures of Donegal town, the beauty of it is that it's just the way, as I say, you stand from any vantage point, it's all there in front of you, it all opens out. Like if you step out of, say, for instance, the Central, will you be able to see the signage for McGee's?
That is exactly
for example.
Right.
What is the logic? What's the logic in blocking that?
Absolutely none. Like, trees are lovely, but it really, really is not the place for trees. It's lovely as it is. Just leave it alone.
It looks lovely from the sky, and I think it's actually quite interesting that the image that's been published today is an aerial photograph, because obviously, from the top bedroom of one of the hotels, the trees might look nice. I'm just thinking practically on the ground with them. I don't.
Yeah, but how many people?
I didn't know those. I know they do consultation, and consultation's important, because what happens is you have your view. You have your view in advance, don't you? And then everyone feels that they have their say. I honestly did not know there was a public consultation ongoing. I'm not sure if the likes of yourself in the tourism industry was aware of it. But I would just love to see the process that went through, that came up with people believing surrounding the entire... For example, for those familiar with it, the taxi rank, there would be 4 trees across it, and there would be 7 trees encircling each of the circles.
Well, on your programme there was the first I heard it. Not that they needed to, but I mean that's I didn't hear from the tourist point. From the any other area. Just from you, I heard that. But I don't think it would... Trees are lovely in their own place, but not on the square in Donegal town.
Yeah. And you're speaking as a tour guide. You'll be welcoming people in, and you do a fantastic job, and I know that because I've been told that. So you're speaking from experience. You're at the front maybe with the microphone, and it's not conducive to what you want to do, explaining what's there.
It was just wonderful as you drive around, as you know that you drive around before you go down to where the parking place is, where you let the passengers off. and it's just a great opportunity to point these places out to them before they go down that far. So then when they come up into the town, they have an idea of where to go. I would be with them, but I'm not. You can't be with all of a coach load because they all just stray up into the town.
What about then, though? Just to play devil's advocate, what about they get off the bus? They
get off down near the river
pier.
there.
Yes, but then they walk up. And then they explore the diamond hidden by the trees. You know, what could be behind that tree? Could that work? No, I don't know.
Yeah. So I love as you're driving in initially, because the bus has to do the circle around the square.
And here's another thing too. A lot of tourists now, right? A lot of tourists check places out on Street View on Google. Right, so you go on the street and you go on the street and you can, zoom around and have a look what's around and pick where to go. If I were a business owner there, depending on what side of the street the person lands on with Google Street View, will they see the signage of my property? Will they see the brilliant paint job I've just done on my building? It's all part of a more. We're in a new century now. I just wonder if that's going to be. I don't want to be negative anyway. The conversations might have been had, but sure, there's no harm. We can still have opinions, can't we? And we're not going to get cancelled for this, are we?
Oh, well, no, I think they should rethink it. It's a lovely idea, and trees are nice, but not on the square.
Right, we'll see what other people think, Anna. Listen, lovely to chat to you, and come here, you had a cruise ship in not long ago. Do you know when the next one's due in?
Do you know, it's due in, and there's quite a number. There's two in June, I think. I can't remember exactly the dates.
Wow, so this month, brilliant.
There's a couple in June, and there's a couple for Derry, and there's some in August, but there's quite a number now in Killybegs.
Brilliant, and it's great to see actually the likes of Donegal Town and other areas getting the lift as well. Yeah, okay, brilliant stuff. Anna, lovely to chat to you again.
And you too, Greg.
Take care of yourself, okay? Any views? 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or call 074 91 25,000. Hi, Greg, would agree 100% that this be of a government exaggerated COVID, but the Irish people are like sheep. They believe everything. It just shows how much of a joke COVID was and not a mention now. Well, listen, the bottom line is that's what people thought. It doesn't necessarily mean what everyone thought was true one way or other. I think people made up their own minds. Hi, just texting to say if anyone's flying out of Derry Airport today with Logan Air, flights are delayed. Was meant to take off at 7:05 this morning and it's now delayed to 12:50, now moved to 13:30. I would suggest that maybe there's a problem there in that the airport into which it's flying is experiencing problems, because I know our regional airports, the likes of Derry and Ireland West, they're a dream to travel through. But maybe they're feeling the impacts of the delays and problems in other bigger airports. Is that possible? I imagine that's probably the case.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
A lot of the best things in life have been a little out of reach for a while.
Like those belly-clutching back-of-the-bus laughs.
Or having the chats with their mates as you're getting ready to go out.
We've all missed loads of things, but luckily, most of them are making a comeback. And so are we at Feroiga Clubs. Join thousands of adult volunteers who make Feroiga Clubs a community where young people can become who they want to be by giving them a space where they belong. Become a volunteer today at feroiga.ie.
Joe Gallagher Entertainments present Rock and Roll Legends Show Waddy Waddy at Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny, Thursday 9th of June. Tickets on sale now from hotel reception, ticketmaster.ie and Joe Gallagher Entertainments. Show Waddy Waddy live at Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny, Thursday 9th of June.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us what. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €2.5 million. Play responsibly in store, in app, or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Around the Northwest will be behind bars this Friday as the show comes live from the Lifford Old Courthouse. We'll actually be behind the bar, 2 floors above the cells, which is a lot more comfortable. We're there ahead of the big family fun day on Saturday, when there's an opportunity to explore the cells, try out the stocks, and even have your face painted. So join us live from 2:30 this Friday as we set the scene at Lifford Old Courthouse.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. And pleased to welcome back onto the programme Carol Friel. Good morning, Carol. How are you?
Hi, Greg. How are you?
It's good to have you with us. Okay, so Walk and Talk for B just around the corner now. For those who may not have heard the story before, give us the background to how we came to Walk and Talk for B.
Yeah, so it's a charity walk we're hosting now on the 11th of June, so 10 days away at this stage, so Saturday week. And we're walking from our home place here in Newton Cunningham, where myself, Breda, and our 3 kids, we live here now. Unfortunately, we lost Breda last August to cancer. She had a 5-year fight with cancer and unfortunately lost her last August. And in memory of Breda, so it's in relation, I suppose, as much as anything, it's a charity fundraiser for sure, but importantly too, it's in remembrance and a celebration of Breda's life. So we're walking to Breda's home place where she was brought up in George and Bridget Gallagher's on Inver Bay, which is on the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a 77, 78 kilometre walk. And we're doing it, as I say, and for 5 great charities who have been really good to us over the last 5 years.
And it's sort of for multiple reasons, as you've outlined, but also Breda herself saw the benefit, and you did as well with Breda, in walking and talking.
Yes, a massive benefit. And actually, Greg, this is something I was really hoping that when we launched the charity, the walk, initiative 6 months ago, that I was really hoping people would get those benefits from it, the same as we've got over the last number of years, and they really have. The amount of positive comments coming back, it really is. It's people being able to get out there, having those conversations that just don't happen elsewhere, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And it's just really, obviously, you get the physical benefits, but it's just that mental benefits of being able to discuss and. And even if you don't discuss, listen to music or a podcast on a walk.
Well, you're in a different space. There's no one else around necessarily. There's no TV on in the background. There's no Highland Radio in the background. There's nowhere sometimes to run. It
just allows you to. As somebody said to me, it's like a computer dump. You just empty the mind of and clear your mind of maybe distractions and worries and concerns of everyday life. And what that allows you to do then is just literally function a lot better, sleep better. And ultimately you just function a lot better in life, and that's exactly the benefits that we have. And loads of, hundreds and hundreds of people have come back to me to say that that's exactly the benefits they're also starting to get now too. So yes, the June 11th is the walk and the day of the walk and the date of the walk, but I really hope and I do believe people will continue this long into the future and bring walking and talking into their life now, if that makes sense, and have it part of their daily or weekly routine.
I think people that do it get it. It's those that might go, well, I don't know.
That's it.
So the walk begins, as you say, June 11th. It's from Newtown, Cunningham, where Breda, Carol, and your children lived, and it ends 80 kilometres away at Breda's home place, Inver Bay. Don't know how you managed to convince her to move from Inver to Newtown, Cunningham.
I know, yeah, it was a difficult one, I have to say, in fairness. But in fairness, now where we live here, I know, countryside here, and it's beautiful also. But yeah, what they have on their doorstep, literally in their front garden, is the Atlantic Ocean and a beach there, which is actually truly amazing. So on June 11th, we'll have hundreds and hundreds of people will arrive from the roads of Donegal to this beautiful scenic, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the weather starts to behave for us on the day, and they will get to see what Breda grew up with and what George and Bridget have on their front doorstep.
Now, registration for the walk is closed, but donations are still open, and money raised is for Cancer Care West, the Donegal Hospice, the Mara Keating Foundation, Solace Donegal, and the Good and New Cancer Charity. And as I say, as well as this, you want to get the message out there of it's not going to be for everyone, but for the majority of people, get out there, have a walk and a talk, and see how it works for you. And you don't have to necessarily, because I think sometimes we do that stuff when things are really, really, really bad, or we think they're really, really bad. But sometimes we kind of tick along, in our lives and don't realise that maybe, things could improve from where we're at.
Greg, nobody knows what tomorrow brings, if you know what I mean. So it's really important that we look after ourselves, look after those close to us and our family, and more importantly, look after our own mental health, if you know what I mean. And then that's just unbelievably important. But on the charities themselves, again, unfortunately, Greg, as we know, cancer cases are rising, and the statistics are proving that this is these are really, really rising, in our country, unfortunately. Something like 45,000 people a year get diagnosed with cancer. And these charities, that it's really, really important to just make the point that these charities are really dependent on charitable donations, and it's unbelievably important that we, that people, if they get the opportunity, to please, help us out here and help these charities raise the much needed funds that unfortunately lots of people are going to need, going forward in these charities, and the services they provide are just truly phenomenal. And fortunately, they were there for us. We're unbelievably lucky, and unfortunately, lots of people in the future will need what they do, and it's really important that we support them now at this time.
All right, walkandtalkforb.com, where you can go and make your donations. Obviously, you were pleased with the amount of registrations and the uptake, Carol, because you never know, and it's, people can approach this walk in different ways. But it's not a 5K fun run, which is a fantastic thing as well. So were you happy with how people latched onto the idea?
A bit scared, to be honest with you, Greg. It's over 500 people.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Which is truly phenomenal. And we actually had to, pull back a little bit, to be honest with you, because the numbers were growing so fast. Yes, it's truly phenomenal. And obviously, number one, the importance of this walk is the health and safety of everybody too. So that's what we're really concerned about. And as the numbers grew, that's something we did begin to be very concerned about. But at this stage, to say, it's going to be a great day. I'm really looking forward to now. It's going to be, it's going to be a roller coaster of emotions.
That's what I say. You're going to be all over the place. You're going to be euphoric, and it's going to be.
It will be. It sure will be.
But I'll tell you what an amazing thing for you to be able to do for B, though. Because he's had the conversations, the kernels and the ideas were planted, and now here, a few short days out, from over 500 people, plus those donating, getting involved. I mean, it's a beautiful tribute to your wife.
And a birthday present to her too. Her birthday is 2 days later. So it's going to be nice to mark that, celebrate that with family and friends that day during the walk. And afterwards then we'll have some music in Inver. And you know what, that's going to be really nice. And it's a gathering of friends and family again that we haven't seen a lot of them over the last couple of years, obviously for various reasons. Or if we have seen them, it's been on maybe an occasion where it wasn't so happy. So on this occasion, yes, it will be mixed emotions, but ultimately it is a celebration. And as I say, it's a gathering of friends and family that's really important for us all.
Brilliant stuff. People can donate now, though registration is closed. They can donate at walkandtalkforb.com. Listen, Carl, again, thanks for joining us.
Just one thing, want to say thanks to everybody that has donated so far, and please, as I say, get on the iDonation page, but all the charities that have been, and the sponsors and everybody who has sponsored so far, thank you very much, and anybody's helping to organise the event, which is taking a lot of organising, so thank you very much.
I was going to say, don't stop mentioning them, because we'll be here till 11. All right,
Greg, very good. Thanks,
take care of yourself. All right, thanks very much indeed. Okay, sounds like it's going to be a lovely thing, and it's great to see it's such a success too. I think it might have even exceeded Carol's expectations there, which is always good, isn't it? Morning, Greg. Can you give a shout out to the Kilmacrennan Young at Heart? They're off to Bloom today. Will be some crack. I've never went to Bloom or similar, but I've heard it's amazing, and something I might enjoy. I don't know. Have you been to it? What's it like? Anyway, all of you from Kilmacrennan, if you're still within listening distance, have a fantastic time. I know you will. Behave yourselves now. I was in Cong yesterday. I stopped off for diesel. €2.12.9 for diesel. The entire way up the road, it was €2.09. Where are these costs going to end? I do not know. But you have Micheál Martin laying the groundwork for this being a long haul for years. I just wonder, I don't think they'll ever come down now with what's going on in Ukraine and with the climate crisis. I don't ever see them coming down to where they were, but because I just don't think it suits where the narrative, in inverted commas, right? All right, we'll be back with more on after the news and obituary notes. Stay right where you are.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union. 9102127.
Trees, grass, allergies. You won't take me down. Don't let pollen ruin your plans. Say yes to life outdoors with fast-acting, long-lasting, 24-hour relief. Telfast Allergy. Now available over the counter from your local pharmacy. Telfast Allergy tablets contains fexofenadine hydrochloride. Always read the label. Distributed in Ireland by Clonmel Healthcare.
In the heart of Letterkenny, Warehouse Bar and Kitchen is an ideal venue for all your parties and celebrations. At Warehouse, you'll find delicious food and cocktails served every day, and live music 7 nights a week. Mouth-watering lunch and dinner options along with the new look cocktail bar are waiting for you. Our late night venue is your weekend destination. Follow Warehouse Bar and Kitchen on social media for specials and updates.
Inish Tractor Run Sunday 5th of June. A charity auction plus barbecue on the spit. There's live music from 6 p.m. with Jimmy Buckley, Jim Devine, Liam McDermott and Shuni Crampsey. Proceeds to Cancer Care West and Donegal Hospice. That's Sunday 5th of June. Inish Tractor Run with live entertainment in the Marquee Malin Stables.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. Parents of children with disabilities attending Sculwara in Buncrana are said to be left in limbo over where their children will be housed in the future. It was previously believed that pupils who are currently based at the Lake House campus will be returned to the main convent campus to an ASD classroom. However, parents have now been told that the pupils will be returned to the main campus but will be placed in mainstream classes. Nolan, whose son attends the school, told today's 9 till Noon Show that she doesn't believe the needs of the children are being considered.
Hearing that her plans is to be putting them into a mainstream classroom, you're not taking into consideration the noise effects of how them boys can handle it. Each child, as I said, is completely different. The hustle and bustle of it as well, when they're not used to that. That's not their safe place. Where do they have when they don't have the convent as their base?
There's a renewed commitment from government to bring forward the publication of the Brandon Report. Donegal Deputy Thomas Pringle has claimed that the HSC has not only failed vulnerable people and their families in the county, but has also failed frontline staff and left them abandoned. Deputy Thomas Pringle was questioning Public Expenditure Minister Michael McGrath in the Dáil after further concerns were raised in recent days that more allegations of sexual abuse could emerge in Donegal on foot of the Brandon Report and subsequent assessments that remain unpublished. Minister McGrath told Deputy Pringle that the government is continuing to work on the issue.
Minister Anne Rabbitte, who, as you know, has taken a very keen personal interest in relation to the matter, has been to Donegal and has had a series of meetings there and is most anxious that the full details in the Brandon Report would be published as soon as possible. And again, just to make the point that Minister Butler is separately bringing forward a safeguarding bill, and she expects to have that bill before the Oireachtas before the end of this year.
Just a day after the Taoiseach warned of further fuel price hikes, petrol has gone above the €2 a litre mark. It follows a decision by EU leaders to cut the amount of Russian oil coming into the bloc by 90%. Forecourts across the country are now charging up to €2.08 a litre for petrol. However, diesel prices, which breached the €2 a litre mark last month, have moderated slightly. ESRI energy economist Muireann Lynch says prices will keep increasing following the EU decision.
When Europe as a whole essentially cuts itself off from its major oil supplier, that's going to have a price impact across the continent, and that will feed through to Irish consumers on the forecourt and also in the likes of home heating bills, and to a lesser extent through perhaps a further increase in electricity prices.
Culture Night could be set to extend to Culture Weekend. The 17th edition of Culture Night will take place on Friday, September the 23rd, but Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh believes the popular event should be expanded to a weekend. He recently asked Donegal County Council to ask the department if they would consider changing the event to Culture Weekend for future years. Councillor Kavanagh says it would give the county a financial boost late in the year.
We've reached a point now with Culture Night where we could extend it out to a weekend to allow people to get to everything that's on. And also, because it's late September, I would think it would give an opportunity for people to have a late weekend break in the county at a time when hotels and B&Bs and that are relatively quiet. It would just be good economically and it would create a great atmosphere around the county.
Ferry services are resuming today in Inishowen. The Lochfoyle ferry service linking Greencastle and Magilligan and the Swilly's ferry service connecting Buncrana and Rathmullen are fully operational as of today. Both services will operate 7 days a week. Cahirlock of the Inishowen Municipal District, Councillor Nicholas Crossan, says with people still very much opting for staycations, the ferry services will simply enhance the offering in the peninsula.
I do believe that staycations are going to be a huge thing this year, because of the queues at the airports. the cost of foreign travel and the aviation fuel prices there's only one way that's going to go is up. So I think that we in North Donegal and in the Shoan Peninsula are very well placed to attract more tourists into here, and by God, we need them back into Inishowen and to enjoy Inishowen, and the ferry service can only help with that.
Weather nice sunny spells this morning, however slight showers will develop through the day with highest temperatures today of 13 to 16 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notice is for this Wednesday morning, June the 1st. The death has occurred of Leslie W. Cook, Richmond, Surrey, husband of Mary Kate Cook, Lower Main Street, Letterkenny. Viewing at Letterkenny Funeral Home, Port Road, Letterkenny, from 6:30 to 9 o'clock this evening. Funeral service tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock in Conwall Parish Church, with private cremation to follow. The death has occurred of Bridget Boyle, née McGranahan, Iris Coshlocka, Tria Lock, late of Corby, England, and Gortna Tra Fanid. Bridget's remains are reposing at her son Martin's residence in Kinnalock. Removal from there at 10:30 tomorrow morning, arriving at St Mary's Church, Fanavolti, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by burial in Tamnahearn Graveyard at County Derry. The funeral cortege will travel via Ballylar on the morning of the funeral. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the St Mary's Fanavolti and St Columba's Mass Mount Facebook page. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of desired to Ramelton Community Hospital Patient Comfort Fund, care of any family member or Macateer funeral directors. Rosary tonight at 9 o'clock, house private from 11 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. The death has taken place in Wetherby, West Yorkshire, England, of Celia Feely, née Crossan, Glengad, Malin. Removal this morning from Liam Collins' funeral premises, Culdaff, for a family funeral mass at 11 o'clock in the Sacred Heart Church, Carndunna, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations if desired to St Gemma's Hospice, Moortown, Leeds, England, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Kitty Ward, Longacre, Gortcally, Kerrykeil. Funeral service this afternoon at 2 o'clock in Fanet Presbyterian Church, Kerrykeil, followed by burial in Milford Presbyterian Cemetery. Funeral service can be viewed on Patrick Sweeney, Funeral Director's Facebook page. The death has taken place of John Arthur O'Neill, 32 Duncan Park, Fintona, and formerly of 11 McCrae Park, Drumquin and Craigban. His remains are reposing at his nephew James McGonagall's home at 5 Clockcore Grove, Clockcore, Strabane. Requiem Mass this morning at St Mary's Church, Ahibrack at 11 o'clock, interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to Mary Curie, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the Donaghedy Parish YouTube page. The death has taken place of Oliver Hart, the Four Winds, Ballyderg, Letterkenny, and formerly from Ross Inver, County Leitrim. Oliver's remains will be reposing at his late residence today from 3 o'clock until 10 o'clock. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:30, going to the Church of the Irish Martyrs, Letterkenny, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed live on the Irish Martyrs Facebook page. Interment afterwards in Newleck Cemetery, Letterkenny. Family flowers only, please. Family time, please, on the morning of the funeral. Rosary tonight at 9 o'clock. And the death has taken place of Helen Martha Rolston, née McCorkle, Lustigal View, Imlick, Carrigans. Her remains are reposing at the family home. Funeral from there this afternoon to Monray Presbyterian Church for service at 2 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining burial ground. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if wished to Monray Presbyterian Church Hall Fund, care of any family member. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Ihe an déanóibh a bhí ann dé dana an tríú Abron, agus san na chóirithirí críocna ag bailú fermacha déanóibh. ní mór gach firm a cheola arás. Mar sin mar bhfuil déir an bailithe le a thul, sair fustan is sé, chuig an seola ar thaobh tosig na firma. Tá breis eolas le fáil ar census.ie. Bís an áireamh.
Okay, good morning to you. If you're just joining us, and you're very welcome back. If you've been with us since 9, it's good to have you with us. 086 60 25,000 texts or WhatsApps. If you want to watch the programme, you can do so on our website, highlandradio.com, watch in browser there. Or if you prefer, our Facebook and YouTube pages, you can stream the show there and see many of our in-studio and remote guests as well. It's just a different way for you to interact with us. You can also email the programme, as did this listener, to say, I'm at my wit's end, a single mum of a teenaged girl who's 15 in July. She has recently been diagnosed with ADHD. She is so out of control at the moment, I can't seem to get any support from the school or doctor. She's been referred to CAMS, but is on a waiting list, which seems to be a while down the line. She's been violent towards me with her fists, wrecking stuff in my home by continuously kicking it with anger. If she doesn't get what she wants, she'll go to any lengths to get it. I'm afraid for her and myself. If this continues, where will it stop? What will it take to happen before I can get an appointment with CAMS for her? Every day the school's contacting me about how erratic her behaviour is. I don't know if there's anything anyone can do to help me, but I can't continue like this any longer with us both suffering so badly. I really appreciate you reading this out from a worried and concerned mum. So this is a mum raising her teenager. I was going to call her a baby, but they're always our babies, aren't they? On her own. She's 15 in July, and she's out of control, effectively, is what she's saying. There's some violence involved there. This person feels isolated, can't seem to get much help from the school or the doctor. Arguably, maybe their hands are tied. The doctor presumably has referred the young one to CAMS, and the school's contacting mum to say, look, your child's behaviour is erratic. Any advice out there? I know lots of you listening will have had similar experiences, and maybe you can reach out and help this person who must feel very isolated. And I just wonder, even maybe if the emailer would like to speak to someone in a similar position. I think maybe if you're trying to deal with all of this on your own, I think that's going to make it even more difficult for you. But anything we can do to help, any advice out there, or even if the emailer wants to recontact us, would you get a benefit maybe from speaking to someone who's been through this that might be able to sympathise and empathise with you? In any case, your contacts to us on 086 60 25,000. If you've not been in that position, I think if you were to put yourself in that position, it would be, you can imagine how difficult it would be. iCare and Donegal County Council are inviting you to attend the official opening of the iCare Sensory Garden. It's at Looking Glass Bray, Ballamaccorry and Buncrana, and the official opening is at 11 a.m. on the 3rd of June. The iCare Sensory Garden was funded through the Donegal County Council Peaceful Programme Action Plan. Right, okay, let's get to some of your comments. We were talking about zebra crossings. A caller says, I think zebra crossings should be on every street. Even a few on every street would also have the effect of slowing traffic and also allowing cars on side streets to exit. And I think really what the conversation we were having was, one's a zebra crossing, not a zebra crossing when it doesn't have the lights. And there was some concern about the one out towards the Ora Leisure Centre. It's not associated with that. That there's issues there seemingly with line of sight and traffic, seeing people waiting to cross in order to slow down. We were talking to Hugh Friel yesterday. It seemed to have been a very significant and well-attended protest outside the Dáil, raising issues facing the traveller community, particularly with the huge rate proportionately of suicide and mental health. This caller says, I agree with you. My son has been bullied in 6th class, very bad, then on to first year in the secondary school. Once children copped he was a traveller, I moved into a new house. My little boy got badly kicked and a knife pulled out on him, left us as a family very bad mental health, anxiety. I had to leave my house for our safety with threats to be burned out, and we're a good family in an area now where neighbours know we are a good family. We feel safe and travellers are not bad. Okay, it's good. I'm sorry for what you went through, and particularly what the young lad went through, but I'm glad you've moved into an area now where you are understood by your neighbours and everyone gets on well. Okay. Right, it is time for us to play Radio Bingo. Good luck if you are playing. Stay where you are. We're back in around about 2 minutes with more information and interviews and advice and every other thing, you know, what you can get in this programme on any given day.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday the 1st of June. You're playing on the blue sheet. The reference number is S8. It's game number 22. The numbers are 54, 67, 15, 33, 9, 41, 6, 8, 65, and finally 35. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Is your bank leaving town? Letterkenny Credit Union is now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features with no appointment necessary to open your account.
AB Plant Exports Group are currently buying all types of excavators, loading shovels and backhoes for export from 3 tonne to 70 tonne. Contact AB Plant Exports Group today and you will receive the very best price across Ireland, north and south. For more information, contact AB Plant Exports Group on 0873 779966.
At AIB, we know how difficult finding the right home can be. The searching, bidding and time that lives behind every sale agreed sign. But when you finally do find the right home, AIB can make the mortgage part easier. With our online mortgage tool, you can manage your application online. Find out more at aib.ie. AIB, we back belief. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Allied Irish Banks plc is an authorised agent and servicer of AIB Mortgage Bank QC in relation to the origination and servicing of mortgage loans and mortgages. Allied Irish Banks plc and AIB Mortgage Bank QC are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood fitters available. New bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
The Kia Sportage, Donegal's best-selling car for 2022. If you're thinking about making the move to Kia or to upgrade your current Kia, make sure to call in today to iMotors Letterkenny or Malin. With a 7-year warranty as standard, driving a Kia makes sense.
Okay, now we are going to talk about the establishment, or calls for the establishment of a new safeguarding authority to reduce adult abuse. To help us understand these proposals, Patricia Rickard-Clark, a Safeguarding Ireland chairperson, joins us on the programme now. Thanks for taking the call this morning, Patricia.
Thank you, Greg, for having me.
So we understand as much as we can what we're talking about. Can you give us some examples of adult abuse?
Well, there are many examples. So, for example, financial abuse. So, if somebody, and financial abuse in Ireland is quite prevalent, actually. So somebody is collecting, a family member may be collecting the pension of an older person and using that pension themselves and not for the benefit of the older person and not paying the older person's bills. So there's also, of course, psychological abuse or coercive control, very high level of psychological abuse perpetrated on older people. Again, people who are old and frail or many people who may lack the capacity to make their own decisions, and they're controlled by another person or told what to do, or their rights are not respected. Or they might be put into a nursing home against their will and they want to be at home. Now, there are policy issues around that in terms of the lack of proper home care. But in many cases, other people make decisions on behalf of people in vulnerable circumstances.
Now,
for
just
the opinions of the person themselves.
On those examples, say, for instance, coercive control, we have already in law seen the first convictions of that. The first, in fact, was in Donegal. We see the HICWA report as it relates to, people's complaints of how they're being treated, whether it's by a family member or a carer or whatever it might be. And we have those stats. So what would what would a safeguarding authority do beyond what's already there? Because we do have a decent, I think, a decent feel for the problems and pathways maybe for people to sort of have them addressed. So what would the safeguarding authority do?
Sorry, just before dealing with that, go back to coercive control. Coercive control, the legislation is under the domestic violence legislation, which is limited to people who have been or are in an intimate relationship. The highest level of abuse of older people is psychological abuse or coercive control.
Yes.
There's no legislation covering that. And if we look again at the domestic violence legislation, the applications to court for protection and barring orders, most of those applications are, again, people in intimate relationships. They do not. And indeed, the court service did a kind of a manual survey there about 2 years ago, and 25% were older people against adult children or nieces and nephews. So again, they're the issues that we don't actually regard as abuse. And the same, as I say, with financial abuse. Theft is a crime. Yet if somebody pinches the pension of a person with an intellectual disability or their benefit, or an older person, we don't regard that as a crime. So that's what we're talking about. So we have no adult safeguarding legislation. We have no legislation framework to deal with those aspects, to assess risk, people at risk, and to prevent abuse and to protect them from abuse. So we need not only a legal framework. Again, as you rightly say, you point to HICWA and other bodies. They all have limited powers, and they are actually all narrowly focused on health and social care, but they're not dealing with what we require a more integrated across the board of financial, housing, homelessness, justice services, and all of that, with safeguarding responsibilities placed on all public and private bodies and organisations. And we also need huge public awareness amongst the public and professionals that abuse is taking place. So again, Safeguarding Ireland would have done a survey in 2020, which was during the COVID, at the end of the first year of the COVID. And we found that 12% of adults reported experienced adult abuse in the previous 6 months, and 1/3 said they had experienced abuse in their lifetime. So the figures are large, and we don't regard them as abuse.
Yeah, and there's a big grey area there. Like if someone comes into my house, grabs the TV and runs out, it's very clear to me what has just happened and what I can do to address that and to seek justice. But some of the examples you've given, does the victim even know how it can be pursued? And as you say, the organisations that count this and release the stats on it, their powers, as you've already indicated, are very, very narrow. It's very murky. It's grey.
It's very grey, and any of the people we're talking about are in vulnerable circumstances, or they're in a bad place, and they may be under the control of another person. And they may be dependent on another person. So they live in fear. So they don't complain or they don't raise issues. But we should respect their rights. But they also, the other issue is that for people, say, who lack decision-making capacity, there's no piece of legislation. We're waiting for the commencement of our Decision-Making Capacity Act. But again, there are no safeguards. So there's limited protective action available to address situations where those person's rights are not respected. So
because we don't want to try and fix a problem, but create another problem or even a greater problem.
Yeah. Well, back to the reporting again. The reporting, first of all, we don't have any data collection on a national basis. We have a very limited provision where the HSE National Safeguarding Office does collect data and collect reports, but it's limited to limited HSE services, for example, disability services mainly, and services for older people. But it doesn't cover private nursing homes, acute hospitals, all of that. So there's huge underreporting at the same time. Another survey that Safeguarding Ireland did, 40% of the population did not know who to report abuse to. So that comes to our central recommendation, which is the establishment of an independent national adult safeguarding authority, which would be have overarching responsibility for the promotion of standards, the ensuring that there are reports and what reports should be made, the whole question of data collection. And indeed, at the moment, although we have data protection legislation, we have no provision for sharing data to protect very vulnerable people. So again, the whole sharing of data and then the enforcement of safeguarding laws. And we need safeguarding laws in place, first of all.
You know, and there's a paragraph that jumps out at me. Considering the prevalence of abuse and narrow focus of the current response, the report proposes major change and warns that Ireland's current approach to safeguarding is deeply flawed and appears incapable of providing safe and humane care and support for all adults at risk. I mean, that's strong words, but well justified, you would say, of course.
Absolutely. And I mean, just think of the Amy case, the Grace case, the Brandon case. What did we do? Well, I mean, again, because we've no proper legal framework in place, people didn't know what to do, professionals.
But in terms of the Brandon report, we don't know what went on. We're not getting to see it, and we can't really find out what's being done to make sure it doesn't happen again. And we've tried on this programme in that particular case, just tell us and tell those with other people that might feel they're vulnerable, what are you actually doing? Who's being held accountable? Will heads roll? Not that it's a head on a stick job, but it's not really clear, if we have anything in place to actually stop that happening again.
Yeah, so we need that independent authority to actually put in place standards and procedures for the reporting, for the transparency, for the accountability and all of that. And we need organisations to be made accountable for things that happen and whatever. And we need to find out, and we do need to know, and we need to have proper legal framework in place, and a proper independent body can ask those questions and get answers.
Yeah, is this an example? My sister's husband died recently and her adult stepchildren have redirected the money in his account to them and said they'll give her money as is needed. The caller says to me, this is financial abuse. Can they do that? Now, I'm not asking you to reply on that in terms of, the legal situation there, but that's, an example that probably falls under what we're talking about here. And just one case, and there's probably thousands of those in Donegal alone.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Who needs to run with this, Patricia? It's there, and there's a cycle now where, you're on stations like this and talking about it. What needs to happen so that now, in the next day or two, we don't move on to the next thing? Who needs to... You're working really hard, of course, to make sure the message has gotten out there. Does it require a TD to take it up? Does it require the government to? Does the opposition need to get all over this? Like, what happens next to make sure this doesn't lose momentum?
Well, we want a minister and a lead department to take responsibility. At the moment, it's spread, and no department really sees its responsibility. Health sees itself as having some role in the health and social care, but it's much, much wider than that. And financial abuse doesn't come under health, for example, which is very widespread. Yeah. So we need. We'll be asking the Minister for Justice to take a lead in this, and then to work on an interdepartmental, intersectoral, multidisciplinary basis, and first of all, to enact adult safeguarding legislation. I should say there was a bill produced in the Senate in 2017. But it hasn't progressed. Now, it was brought back onto the order paper, but it hasn't progressed. But we need adult safeguarding legislation. Part of that legislation, we need the establishment of this independent authority. So we need all legislators to understand the issue, to be aware of the issue, and to ensure that we see the enactment of adult safeguarding legislation. We were established in December 2015. Since then, we've been calling for legislation in this area, and we haven't yet received it. And on the other side, there is some safeguarding pieces and provisions which are very welcome in the Assisted Decision-Making Capacity Act. That Act was enacted in 2015. It's due to commence next month. But again, 7 years later, and we throw money at, we respond to things, when a crisis arises, and we throw money at that, instead of having a proper framework in place to prevent abuse happening in the first place and to protect people from risk.
Listen, Patricia, thank you so much for your time this morning. I appreciate it greatly. All right, that's Patricia Rickard-Clark, Safeguarding Ireland Chair, talking there about the calls for the establishment of a new safeguarding authority.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
For a great early season lawnmower deal, visit Gartley Sales and Hire, exclusive stockist of Stiga in the Northwest. Mowers, trimmers and hedge trimmers. Full trade and service available at Gartley Sales and Hire, Gartley, Letterkenny. Call 9126276.
What will your June feel like? Will you immerse mind, body and soul in the deep of sea or lake? Or scale new heights on one long roller coaster of adventure? To spread our wings and take one long, wonderful exhale. That's the bank holiday feeling. And June's long weekend is the perfect time to feel and bank it all. Ireland is waiting. Start planning at discoverireland.ie to make the most of your June bank holiday. And keep discovering. Brought to you by Fáilte Ireland.
Wetsuits, wetsuits, wetsuits at Borderland Muff. Workwear, workwear, workwear at Borderland Muff. Waterproof jackets, trousers and footwear at Borderland Muff. For fashion, footwear, water sports and hiking, visit Borderland Muff. Open 7 days or online at borderlandmuff.ie.
Start playing NCBI Radio Bingo today. 3 chances a day, 5 days a week to win daily prizes of €400 plus. Not to mention a weekly jackpot of €5,000 upwards. Books available at your local retailer for just €5 each. It couldn't be simpler. Real money, real people.
Okay, I think most of us would agree at this stage that phone and broadband are essential, really, to everyday life in terms of our interaction with other people. It could be remote working. It could be our entertainment services. But one listener, Marie Cannon's been without them now for quite some time and joins us on the programme. Marie, thanks for taking the call.
Thank you, Greg, for having me.
Right, so tell us, 2 months now, 8 weeks you've been without services. Take us through the story.
Well, we got a phone call to see if we were interested in upgrading to fibre broadband. And we said yes, didn't think any more of it. Anyway, somebody came in here on the 9th of April to upgrade. He spent 5 hours here and he left and he said, our landline will be up and running in 20 minutes to half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened. My husband rang him and he said, give it another while. So we waited and he rang him again. Oh, he says, I'm nearly home now. I can do nothing about it. You have to wait till Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Monday came, he rang, nothing happened. We've been ringing Vodafone since. We had no landline since that day. And then our mobile phones we could make a call, text out from that. We had no internet, we had no nothing for over 3 weeks.
Has
kept
anyone...
ringing.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Marie, go ahead.
Anyway, we kept ringing them and all we kept getting was 3 to 5 working days every time we rang. So the next thing we got was somebody would be in on the 16th of May to connect a new modem. Now, we already had a new modem connected on the 9th of April.
Mm-hmm.
So, man came in here on the Monday morning of the 16th of May, connected a new modem, and we had our internet back on, but no landline. And we said it to him before he left. My husband said, oh, he says, I have done all I can. It's up to Vodafone now. And since that, we've been ringing Vodafone every couple of days. Nothing happened. Back a couple of weeks ago, they connected the landline with a new number, but we knew nothing at all about it.
Oh, right.
And it was only by chance that my husband was trying to see if it was working. He rang my mobile, and he says, the phone is working. He says, ring me back on. So I rang him back and nothing. So I checked the number on my mobile and it was a completely different number. That's not our number.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, rang them again. Oh, it'll take 3 to 5 working days to get your number back.
Yeah.
Kept ringing, the same story all the time. With the result, I rang one day and I
did get angry with them. I said, look, this is going too long now.
Mm-hmm.
We need it sorted. I said, I want my number back. I have had this number for almost 40 years. I do not, at my age, do not want a new number. Anyway, we've been ringing, and Monday I rang. I was on the phone for an hour. Same thing, 3 to 5 working days. Yesterday morning I rang. I was on for an hour and a half. Now, we can ring some numbers. There's other numbers we can't. She tried to tell me then that it was my handset. I said if it was the handset, I couldn't ring any numbers, but I can ring some numbers and not others.
Consistently. It's not hit and miss.
Yes.
Some numbers you can ring all the time, others, no luck.
Since yesterday this happened.
Yeah.
Now, I tried it again this morning, these particular numbers, and no, I can't get through to them.
Right, so as it stands now, your internet is working, your phone is working intermittently, and you've lost the number you've had for almost 40 years.
Well, they give me back my number.
Okay.
Yesterday morning, it was my own number was back, and tried to ring these other numbers. Now, a few of them, she kept telling me to ring different numbers, and I kept trying different numbers. Some of them would ring, others won't ring at all. I tried my husband's mobile several times, and all you get is an engaged tone.
Well, that's one
Nothing.
number. That's one number you definitely want to be able to ring.
Of course,
Yeah.
as I said to her yesterday, if I didn't have my mobile and I had an emergency in the last 7.5 weeks, where do I turn?
Yeah.
Because there's friends of mine do not have coverage in their home
Yeah. You
for
need to
their
be able to
mobiles.
get onto the landline.
You have to have. That's why we're paying for a landline.
Now, we're chasing up Vodafone as well. So, what? Just so we're clear, what is not working at the moment? It's dialing out's the problem, isn't it? You've got your old number back. The broadband is working, but it's your outward calls. It's hit and miss. Some numbers working, some not working. That's the main problem at the moment.
That is the main problem at the moment. And I just thought yesterday, I can't, 7.5 weeks, I can't take any more of it.
Yeah.
And that's why I rang Highland.
And
to see if anybody has the same problem with Vodafone.
I've heard it before.
Yeah, but my sister actually had the same problem about a year or 18 months ago. And she was 3 weeks before she finally got it sorted. But I mean, we're 7.5 weeks now.
And do you know what the problem is, Marie? Every time you ring Vodafone or any of these companies, you get a different person. So they say 3 to 5 days, and then nothing happens in 3 to 5 days. You ring again, and another person goes, "Oh, right, well, this is terrible. Sorry, Ms. Cannon. I'll get onto this now. It should be fixed for you in 3 to 5 days." Nothing happens. And
That's
so
right.
on and so forth. And next thing, we're almost 8 weeks, 8 weeks on free. What they need, these companies need, is one person, create a case number, and they stick with your situation until it's resolved.
That's exactly it.
That's the way it used to be, isn't it?
That's the way it used to be. As I said, years ago, when we had a problem with our landline, you ring and there was somebody sorted it within a day, 2 days at the most. I mean, if they had told us at the start, this is going to take 4, 6, 8 weeks to sort, I would have said no, forget it.
Well, let's not forget
What
that,
we
by
had
the
was
way.
fine.
Yous were ticking
Sorry?
along. Yous were ticking along fine. It's they called to you and they said to you, "We can do this for you. Do you want us to do it?" They sold you the moon and the stars, as they do, and that's what they do because they're, you know.
it.
So
Yeah.
this, I mean, obviously, you've made that decision, but also
Yeah.
too, what's very interesting is these problems go past the cooling off period. So say, for instance, you says, right, stuff this, I've had enough of this, I'm going back to my old company. You can't because you're locked into Vodafone now in this contract because the problems have surpassed the cooling off period. Listen, as I say, we'll chase them up and see. They need someone in that company to take control of the situation. I know they'd have it fixed in 30 seconds if one person just stuck their head at it. And we'll see if it progresses it any, Marie. And we'll also see if anyone out there is in the same boat. I hope you get sorted soon.
That's exactly what I want to know, as other people have. Like, we have been with Vodafone since April 2012.
Yeah. But it's switching to fibre was the change.
That was the big problem.
Yeah.
And if it was now, I would say, no, thank you, I don't want it.
Right, all right.
Because the hassle we have went through all this time.
Have you added up how many hours you've spent on the phone to Vodafone in the last 8 weeks?
No, I just said if I had done that, and they had to pay me for the time I spent on the phone to them, I would be worth a fortune.
Yeah, you'd be moving into a big house.
The minimum I've spent on the phone any one day is half an hour. Like yesterday morning, I went on the phone at 9:20, and it was 11:15 by the time I got off the phone. Monday morning, I was a full hour on the phone. Every single day that I ring them, it's a minimum of half an hour. And you're as far back when you come off the phone as when you first went on.
Okay, well, I'm going to try my hardest to get this resolved for you as much as we can do. We'll try and do, even if I have to go on Twitter and embarrass them, I'll do that too. Whatever it takes, because it's life's tough enough, isn't it? With everything else going on, and all you want to do is ring your husband and give him an earful, and you can't get through.
It's not even that. Like, if he's away someplace, and I needed to contact him if the battery's flat on my mobile, I can't contact.
Listen, I know, and it's not an age thing, by the way, but I know with people in my life, right, the ability, there's great security in knowing that, God forbid, if anything were to happen, you can get through to someone. As I say, it's not age related, and when that's taken from you, it affects you probably more than it should, because you'd be anxious about stuff. You know, and so I do really understand the importance of you knowing that you can reliably contact someone in the event that you need to, and that's been taken away from you from the last 8 weeks. So listen, we're gonna try and sort it out with you, Marie.
It's not as though we're young people. Like we're in our 70s. Yeah. We need our landline. We wouldn't be paying for a landline if we didn't need it.
Of course, you'd say the mobiles, but you want that security, and I get it 100%, Marie. I hope you understand. I understand. Okay,
I do, of course.
Leave it with us, all right, and we'll see what happens, and hopefully this nightmare comes to an end for you soon.
Thank you very much, Greg, Marie, for your help.
No, anything we can do, we do try and help. Okay. As I say, Marie also wants to know a bit of solidarity. Anyone else out there in the same boat? Right, some of your comments coming into us today. Hi, just watching Virgin Media 1. They did a poll all over Ireland asking where is the most expensive petrol or diesel. It ranged from €1.80 down the country to Donegal, €2.06 out on top for the wrong reason. Why would tourists bother with Donegal? Now, I get what you're saying there, but what happens is people are going to be motivated in that type of poll to highlight, it's really cheap by us or it's really expensive by us. I'm not sure. We have the averages, and I would say the average around Donegal is much lower than 206 because you can travel north, south, east and west and get prices varying by 15, 16, 17 cent. So the average nationally is really perhaps where we're at. I don't know why petrol or diesel. In one place, petrol's more expensive than diesel and over €2 litre. In another, diesel's more expensive than petrol, over €2. Now, they will say, well, it depends when you order it, when you get it delivered, and I do get that. Don't get me wrong. But I travelled a wee bit down the country and I found it got more expensive the further south I went from Donegal. Now, as I say, that's just me. I'm not saying it's the case, but that's what I've found anyway. Who came up with the idea of trees in the diamond? Planners, no doubt. Another caller says, terrible idea for Donegal town. Look what happened to Letterkenny Square. What a very interesting analogy there. And they're literally in the process now of trying to undo what was done to Letterkenny Square. It was a beautiful design, but it didn't work. And what's one of the major criticisms in terms of CCTV coverage and other things? Trees. What will the CCTV coverage be like around Donegal town with all those trees there? Anyway, listen, the conversation's been had. I don't want to stir, but thankfully we live in, as I said earlier on, but sometimes trying to have it the other way. We live in a democracy where people can have views and a polite exchange of views. Right, okay, and you can empathise with our previous caller, can't you? Good morning.
I can. Good morning, Greg.
Right, what was your story, Anne?
Well, I had the same problem with Vodafone. I rang and sometimes you'd be on the phone for 2 hours, and I would leave my mobile on speaker, and just carry on to the kitchen waiting to see if they would answer. I never could get an answer, but I eventually messaged them, and I did get an answer. Now, I did leave them. I threatened to leave them, and then I did leave them, and they said they wanted $325 for breaking the contract.
Yes.
And I said, I'm because when I would report it, they would tell me there's a problem in the house with your line. And the technician would come, he would say there's no problem in the house, and there's no problem in the line. He says it's Vodafone themselves. And when they wanted €325, I said, well, if you can go back and check how many times the technician has been here, how many times I have reported the fault, I said, I'm not paying any contract fees. And I left them, and he said to me, it was actually a Scotchman I got. And he told me, he said, well, we'll have to forget about it.
They waived those contracts. And when you switched to a new company, the problems resolved? You didn't have any problems anymore?
No, well, we just had to get a new modem.
Aye, but what I'm saying is they were saying to you, oh, it's inside the house, inside. It's almost gaslighting, really. You know it's not inside the house, but they're saying it's inside the house.
Yeah, and they kept telling us that, and the technician was here 5 times. And he said, well, I have checked the line down the road, I have checked the line at your house, I have checked the whole of the house, and there's no problem. He said, no problem in the line, no problem in your house. The problem is Vodafone themselves.
Oh, it's okay. Very frustrating.
But you just can't get through them because I had to message them and then I couldn't get through to them.
Yeah, very frustrating. But you got resolved anyway, but it meant switching company and arguing with them about a contract breakage fee. I'm glad you got sorted, Anne. Thanks for that. Appreciate it greatly.
Okay,
Take care. Have a good day. Caller says, let me start that again. I had a similar situation. I told them my alarm system went through the number and they let me keep the number. Through her struggles, she did manage to keep her number. My neighbour had the same problem with Vodafone. He had broadband but no landline for 2 months. I rang Vodafone on his behalf. They checked the line and informed me that the wrong codes were put in at their end. They corrected the codes, and 5 minutes later, lo and behold, the landline was working. We are with Air. The package was €50. Now it's up to 93, and they say you can't leave because you have a contract. Listen, why is it up to 93? What are you paying for there? You should be able to drop down the packages. You are paying, I imagine, for gigabit broadband there. You probably don't need it. Air now are offering new customers €35 a month. How did you end up on 93 from 50? Because you signed a contract for 50, then it obviously went up after that ended. That happened to me and I quit straight away. Right? So need to get back. How are you in a contract? How did it go from 50 to 93 within that contract? That's what would have to have happened. There is no need for anyone to be paying more than €35 for their phone and broadband per month. If you're paying over that, you're probably paying for something you don't need, unless you work from home. But I don't have anything in my house. I'm pretty tech savvy. I don't have one thing in my house that can download at 1 gig. Even with 1 gig, I simply don't have anything. Even the PlayStation 5 can't do it. And I don't get any chance to play that anymore anyway. Thanks, Hudson. Anyway, Sally joins us now. Hi, Sally.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, we've had it's like one of them long drawn out sagas from between Air and Vodafone.
It's like Dynasty.
Vodafone at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Because Air wasn't doing anything with us. All they were doing was increasing my bill every so often.
Mm-hmm.
And we changed to Vodafone in February, and we were to have the fibre installed.
Yes.
And whenever it was to come in on the Thursday after that, and 3 months later, we're still waiting for them to come. And it has been going on and on. So they did install it. Air told us we didn't have it in our area. It's past me window. Next door have it. And we've been given the runaround, Greg, really and truly. We have the fibre, but we don't have our landline. And we're elderly people and we need the landline.
So there's no problem downloading stuff, accessing the internet on your home router, but you can't make phone calls.
The phone, everything's working on the phone. We do the dial, but it doesn't ring out, or it doesn't ring in.
And you're saying to Air,
my sons are trying to get them to work at it, and you get different stories every day.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're not being honest with the people. I don't know what's going on, really.
You're threatening them with Comreg now at this stage.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we have done that. Yes. Air told us that we'd be switched off last week.
Uh-huh.
And when my son rang to do that for my husband, they said, "Oh, you have to go for another 3 weeks or something," and then it's supposed to go off today. Hopefully, it will.
And what are you going to try and switch to another provider now, Sally, or what are you going to do?
Well, if they don't give me the landline, I mean, for thing that the government or whatever they're behind or whatever, I mean, it's ridiculous the way they're going on. I mean, I'm not just the only one.
Yeah, and as I said earlier on, like, there's enough going on without having to deal with this.
But I mean, they put the bill up all the time.
Yeah.
I made several contracts with Air, and none of them. The last bill I got from Air was $89.99, and I was supposed to be on $49.99. You know, I had made a contract way back with them, and I mean, every bill they told us we were getting on the fibre.
Yeah.
And the bill went up.
Right.
But
well,
we
listen,
never got the fibre, and that went on for 3 years.
I've a reminder set in my phone now. 12 months from when I switched company, and I'm switching again, because that's exactly what they do. They bump it up. They send you an email that you probably don't open, and next thing you know, €93 for that service. You're paying €720 too much per year, Sally. That's half a tank of oil. It's half a tank of oil.
Come back on it, Greg.
Yeah.
Well.
Listen, we're going to have
no way coming back at all, and it wasn't for yourself. We've nobody to go to.
Yeah, well, listen, Sally. It's at the moment now, you're waiting on them to cancel your contract with them.
Yes, Air were to cancel a contract with Air. Vodafone's supposed to be putting on the landline.
Right.
I don't know why or what's the problem, because everything's there, and we have the broadband. But we don't have the landline.
Okay. Right, Sally, listen.
That was the deal. You know, that's what we were to have, both the landline and the broadband.
Yeah, whatever it is, try and get out of that big contract, though, because, as I say, that's it's just way over the odds, Sally, and hopefully you get that sorted. Keep us up to date, will you?
I will, surely, Greg. Thank you.
Right, listen, how are you keeping anyway? Otherwise, everything all right with you?
Good stuff. As the saying goes, when you get up in the morning, it's fine.
All right, take care, Sally.
Okay.
Right, thanks very much indeed. Hiya, Ken.
Good morning.
It's lovely to have you on the show, Ken. What's your situation?
Well, a few years ago, my contract was renewable with Vodafone, and they offered me the sun, the moon, and the earth to re-sign, which is what I did. But after 3 months of continuous phoning, anything they promised me, I just wasn't getting it. So what I did was, and again, they told me, you know, you can't get out of the contract, you've now signed it. So I actually contacted a solicitor. Now, this is for Northern Ireland I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And explained the situation to him. He said there's two sides to a contract.
Yep, they have to meet their terms and conditions. You pay your bills, and that's your part of it. Their part of it is they give you what they promised they would give you. And if they don't do that, they're breaking the contract.
That's exactly what the solicitor said. So I informed Vodafone.
Yes.
That as far as I was concerned, and my solicitor had informed me, they had broken the contract, and as far as I was concerned, that was the end of it.
Uh-huh.
Now, they threatened this and they threatened that. They were sending me letters. Funny enough, every time I got a letter, the one they wanted was less.
I think they took on the wrong man here, Ken.
Well, they were taking well, I'll keep it clean, they were taking the mickey, so they were,
Yeah.
you know. And it just wasn't, because I had been with them for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're phoning up speaking to staff, and you're asking to speaking to line managers, and they were refusing to let you speak to anybody.
Yeah.
So I just let the whole thing go, and I actually went to another company then. And eventually the letter stopped. But like I say, that's for the north. I don't know how it operates.
I presume it's the same. Ken. Listen, but you got resolved, but you had to go through, you had to engage a solicitor to get it sorted. I mean, this is crazy stuff, isn't it, Ken?
Yes, is that? Well, unfortunately, I am a very belligerent person, and once you get me back up, I just keep going.
Right, okay. Where are you listening to us from, Ken?
Lamavati.
Lovely.
I listen to you every morning.
Good stuff. Lovely part of the world too. Listen, Ken, great to have you on board. Thanks for that. And you won the fight anyway. They'll know for again. Thanks, Ken.
Bye.
Good man. Take care of yourself. Thanks so much for that. All right, you are tuned to the 9 till Noon Show. Wherever you're listening to us from, we have you listening from all over the world, which is great. Lots of people from Donegal listening to us from wherever there are. Some people listening to us from their sunny holiday homes or their permanent homes now out in Lanzarote or wherever it might be. It's great to have you on board. And also, watchers. More of you watch us live and on delay. Over 4 million minutes of the show viewed over the course of the last 6 months, which is really phenomenal. So it's great to see you engaging with us in so many different ways. Hey, so many of you are having problems or have had problems with phone lines and broadbands. We're going to get to more of those calls, the comments, and so much more besides after we take this break.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Sunday, April 3rd was Census Night, and our enumerators have now finished collecting census forms. Every form must be returned, so if your form hasn't been collected, please free post it now to the address on the front of your form. Visit census.ie to find out more. Be counted.
Tune in this Thursday for all the latest farming news and views straight after the 5 p.m. news, brought to you in association with Lifford Credit Union, who have recently launched Cultivate, an agricultural loan at only 6.55%, APR 6.75%. Call into any of their 3 offices for more information or to make an appointment. Lifford Credit Union, Rafo Newton Lifford, supporting local farmers.
Tesco Clubcard has the power to lower prices this bank holiday weekend on tasty thirst quenchers like Coke Zero, 7up Free and Club Orange Zero 330ml by 24 packs, all now €10. Plus Lions Original and Gold Label tea bags 160 pack, Nescafe Gold Smooth 200 gram, any 2 for €10. It can't stop you grabbing another glass though, nothing's that powerful. Lower the cost of your shop with your Tesco Clubcard or app. The power to lower prices. Tesco. Every little helps. Product subject to availability. Excludes express stores.
Come along to the big family fun day this Saturday the 4th at Lifford Old Courthouse. Explore the sales, try out the stocks and meet your favourite characters. With clowns, storytellers, face painting and much more, admission is free and everyone's welcome from 12 to 2. Or enjoy the great afternoon tea with sandwiches and treats for €15 per person in the comfort of the Grand Courthouse. To book afternoon tea, call Lifford Old Courthouse on 9141733.
All right, let's have a look at the weather. Dry with sunny spells developing this morning. A few isolated showers will also develop through the day. Highest temperatures 13 to 16 degrees in light northerly breezes. Okay, that's what we have in store there. Caller says people should be wary of communication companies ringing to offer enhanced broadband packages in the middle of a contract. Some don't realise that they're entering a new contract with an expiry date 12 to 18 months from the date of upgrade. Spot on and really good advice. Missed the first 10 minutes of your show and don't know if you mentioned the following. Applied online for my passport on Sunday night, 29th of May. Received the passport in the post Tuesday morning, 2 days later. Donegal listener, I thought with all the criticism of the passport office, I'd let you know mine took 2 days. I also bought diesel 2 days ago in Ballybofey, 189.9 per litre. Okay, good news. Thank you. And yes, indeed, the simple passport renewals, they fly out the door. If you have a passport already, you're an adult and you're simply renewing it, that's fine. A lot of the problems are families going on holidays, children getting passports for the first time. If any extra documentation is required to be posted, that's when we start seeing the delays. We're not hearing as much of it now as we did previously, but certainly they don't call it Passport Express anymore. They have a new name on it. It's not called Express anymore. But the stories on that are great. If it's simple renewal, there's me photo upline, there's me money, they turn around really quickly. The problem is, as I've outlined there. €42 per month for 20 megabyte broadband via satellite. Try working from home and children playing Xbox on that in a shown area. No other services in my area. And it depends to how that 20 megabytes work. It probably would be okay if there was, a big content ratio so that everyone on it got 20 megabytes, which you kind of get with fibre, but I suspect you're splitting that 20 megabytes and you're hearing the screams of lag and controllers hitting off walls and everything if the young ones are on their, and not so young ones too, are on their PlayStation or Xbox. News on the way.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
New this week in Home Store and More. All roller blinds are half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price roller blinds are gone, they're gone. Also, all water fountains and all pillows are still half price. But when all our half price water fountains and all our half price pillows are gone, they're definitely gone. Order online before 2 p.m. for next day delivery or drop by your local Home Store and More. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Brave lives behind every open sign, behind every add to cart or how would you like to pay today? At AIB Merchant Services, we back Brave with payments and business solutions designed to fit your business needs, whether that's in-store, online or on the go. To discover more about how AIB Merchant Services can grow your business, search AIBMS.com. AIB, we back Brave. First Merchant Processing Ireland DAC Trading as AIB Merchant Services is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Come along to a great night of song and dance with Evelyn and friends this Saturday the 4th in the Clanree Hotel in aid of the Donegal branch of the Alzheimer's Society. Music by the Percy Robinson Band and special guests include Hugh McLean, the Envoy Show Band, Malcolm Fisher and Amy Meehan. Also Anne Biddy, Hilary Ann Hetherington, Eddie Gallagher, the Country Kickers Line Dancers and compere Tommy Rosney. That's from 9 this Saturday night in the Clanree Hotel, Letterkenny. Tickets from hotel reception, Clark's News Agents or pay at the door.
Okay, coming up, we have some advice to you on spotting the signs of stroke. It could save your life. We've business news with Kieran and talking about accents in adverts. Okay, that and so much more besides. But 11 o'clock, let's catch up with what's happening in the world of news. And say good morning now to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Improvements to oversight at our Grania Court in Stranraer have been made, according to a number of reports published by HICWA today. High levels of non-compliance were previously identified at the centre, which is subject to the Brandon report. The follow-up inspections, however, found that further improvements were still required to ensure governance arrangements were effective and ensured residents' needs were consistently met. Parents of children with disabilities attending Sculwara in Buncrana are said to be left in limbo over where their children will be housed in the future. It was previously believed that pupils who are currently based at the Lake House campus would be returned to the main convent campus to an ASD classroom. However, parents have now been told that the pupils will be returned to the main campus but will be placed into mainstream classes. The chair of the Oireachtas Transport Committee says they want assurances that Dublin Airport passengers will not face mass delays this weekend. Senior management at the Dublin Airport Authority, including CEO Dalton Phillips, have been called before the committee today to explain what went wrong last Sunday when 1,400 passengers missed their flights. Lochswilly Ornelai were tasked yesterday evening to assist the removal of a casualty at Ludden Beach. Just before 10 to 6, the rescue service was contacted by Mallinhead Coastguard to assist the ambulance service. The casualty was removed to an ambulance and taken to Letterkenny University Hospital. Families are having to choose which journeys they can make in the car because of the rise in the cost of fuel. Petrol has gone above the €2 a litre mark this week, following the EU's decision to reduce its dependence on Russian oil suppliers. Culture Night could be set to be extended to Culture Weekend. The 17th edition of Culture Night will take place on Friday, September the 23rd, but the Cahirlock of the Letterkenny Milford Municipal District, Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh, believes the popular event should be expanded to a weekend. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Thank you, Michaela. Back after this really brief break.
The train calling at Platform 3 is the 1959 service to Cork. Calling at Charleville, Mallow and Maria in C32A starts chemo next month.
We don't always know who's at risk from COVID-19 and other viruses, but we do know how to protect them. Keep hands clean and wear a mask. Let fresh air in, get vaccinated and stay at home if you are unwell. From the HSE, for us all.
Okay, nice and busy on the phone lines this morning. Thank you very much indeed. 086 60 25,000 if you want to add... Want to add your voice to the conversation? We had the same problem dealing with phone companies. The lines don't seem to be able to take the 5G. It takes far too long for a connection. Then another issue is there are too many subcontractors. My advice is if you have a reasonable connection, stick with it. I understand where you're coming from. I've switched a couple of times for the reasons I've been outlining, and in my experience, it's been pretty smooth. And I would say the majority, but some people are having trouble. Convoy area, when somebody rings the mobile phone, I can hear them, but they cannot hear me. It's not a problem anywhere else. Does anyone else have this issue? All right, so they know it's not their handset because their handset works normally elsewhere, but it must be one particular transmitter. In Convoy, maybe you've had this problem and you thought it was you. They take a call, they can hear who's calling them, but the caller can't hear them. I presume they can't hear you on speakerphone either. You've tried all that, haven't you? I have a similar problem with broadband, but no landline since the 31st of March. Every time we call, we are told, same story, 3 to 5 days. Apparently, we were listed as a priority over a month ago, and we were told that calling would no longer help things. All my neighbours are okay. Well, that's a dirty trick, isn't it? They're saying there's no need to ring us anymore. Come here now. That's not... you're going to have to keep calling them. When the bill is needed, the contact is made much faster. Oh, yeah, if you want to get through to them quick, pretend you're a new customer. The phone's answered like that. Greg, do you not find it's like that with everything now? You can't speak to someone in phone companies, electric suppliers, banks. If you ring a bank now, you get untrained staff in a call centre. It is... I think we're moving away from that for right or wrong, and it's probably for wrong. And also, to even with the web chat, a lot of the people that you are chatting to in the web chat, it's a bot. It's not a real person. And it tries to sort out your problem. So now, even in web chat, a lot of the time, you're not speaking to a real person until the robot or the bot can't answer your query at all. Got an upgrade from Vodafone 2 weeks ago, promised me faster broadband speeds. It's slower now. We've asked them to remove the upgrade, still waiting. €50 for 5 months then until end of September. It's €93. It's crazy. It's just way, way, way too much now. I just was for years overpaying for mobile and broadband, and I say it too much probably on the programme, and you can avoid it quite easily with a little bit of organisation. And I'm a terrible person for organisation, but I'm getting tighter. I carry around WD-40 now just to loosen myself up if you have to buy anything. Vodafone's a complete nightmare. The best way to get in touch with Vodafone is through Facebook Messenger. Say it's a caller there. All right, okay. Right, let's focus on our Wellness Wednesday now. We are joined by our guest on the programme, Dr. Ashtok Memon, who's a consultant stroke physician at Letterkenny University Hospital. I hope I got the pronunciation of your name correct, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Okay. Ashtok, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, super. Okay, thank you. Right, okay. Talk to us about the services now available as it relates to dealing with stroke at Letterkenny University Hospital. Have things improved, Doctor?
As you know, that stroke unit recently opened in our Letterkenny University Hospital, and definitely it has made a big difference overall in the management of stroke patients in Letterkenny University Hospital. We have seen, thanks to the management, that now we have a fully functional stroke unit with a very professional multidisciplinary team, which consists of a very well-trained nursing staff, dedicated physiotherapist, occupational therapist, speech and language therapist, dietitian, and stroke specialist nurse, and a specialist stroke doctor, as well trainee doctors who have keen interest in managing the stroke patients. Now, overall, these things have made a lot of positive outcome. We have managed over 300 patients in stroke unit in last 12 months, and figures are really incredible. The number of the patients successfully being discharged home is significantly high. The number of patients who are readmitted before have gone significantly down. So the rate of the readmission is significantly lower now. And also we have seen that length of stay, unnecessarily length of stay for the stroke patient has also significantly gone down, markedly gone down. So overall, going in the great direction, and we're looking forward to achieve few more milestones, like establishing rapid access TIA clinic, like it's a minor stroke clinics. For those patients who not necessarily need to be admitted, can be managed as outpatient, but we are working on that to get them actually that they can be seen on everyday basis by some stroke specialist for those minor strokes in the clinics. We are working on that, and hopefully we'll achieve that soon.
Brilliant. Now, before we talk about the importance of seeing the signs and early intervention, can we talk a little bit, if you don't mind, Doctor, about prevention? Because the majority of strokes, is it fair to say, are actually preventable? And if so, how can we best limit our risk?
Absolutely, Greg. You're right that it says over 80% of the stroke are potentially preventable. It's a big number. I mean, means if how to prevent, it's just means a few simple steps. Lifestyle modification, like means avoiding that sedentary type lifestyle. Okay, means a daily active walk. We can say like a brisk walk.
How does that benefit us, Doctor? How does getting up off the recliner or the chair and going out for a walk, what is the link between us doing that and reducing our risk of stroke?
See, physical inactivity will result in the accumulation of the bad lipids in our blood vessels. Physical inactivity will reduce the expenditure of our energy. So ultimately, patients will start putting on the weight. Physical activity will keep our muscles more in exercising way, more blood vessels will be more in the motion, so that will reduce or inhibit the clot formation. Not only that, it will also improve the circulation of the heart. Now, it's not only that physical activity, but means eating healthy diet, like avoiding the high fat containing things like cheese, butter, and fast foods, and consumption of more green vegetables.
And also too, sorry, Doctor, because sometimes people maybe, and when I say people, like, me or whoever it might be, we are in a routine for the last maybe 10, 20 years, okay, putting on a bit of weight, being a bit lazy about our diet, not getting enough exercise, and they might say, well, that's it now, this is me. Are a lot of the problems from that lifestyle reversible if we change our exercise and eating habits? Because often, we don't talk about that. So it's never too late, presumably, to at least stop or even maybe perhaps reverse the risk of heart attack or stroke.
Absolutely. It's absolutely reversible, and I have seen it in my patients. My patients, those who actually means we then start them on those prevention once they had the stroke, and they change their lifestyle dramatically with active exercise, changing their diet menu, and they reduce their weight, and we see them that totally new actually means change in their patients. They don't get then stroke, they don't get heart attacks. Now, besides means this active lifestyle, exercising, reducing the weight, it's also necessary for all of us that keep a regular check on our blood pressure, on our cholesterol, and our glucose levels. It's mandatory also that being in touch with your GP or your nearest surgery actually, that once in a while you check the blood pressure. Keep an eye that your blood pressure is okay. If it is high, then your doctor can give you advice accordingly. If your cholesterol is high, can give you advice accordingly whether to change your diet or put you on the medication.
That is manageable.
That is very, very manageable, actually. I mean, I'm not talking about that going to the doctor every month or every 2 months. Means at least if the once in the year or twice in the year of somebody keeping an eye over these things, glucose, cholesterol, and their blood pressure and their weight, I can say that risk of stroke, not only the risk of stroke, but risk of all the major vascular events like heart attack and other events can go significantly down.
Okay. Now, in terms of our physique, we shouldn't just look at the number on the scale. Do we need to look at where fat is on our body as it might relate to an increased risk of stroke?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what we are talking about, like BMI. So it's not only that you're talking about that general obesity, you're also talking about that if the obesity is a central or what. Okay, so overall we are talking about that a healthy physique, like a BMI in the certain range. When it goes above that range, we talk about that this patient is overweight or this patient is obese. So working on that will definitely make the difference.
Okay. Right. Okay. So that's about prevention. And as you say, 80% of strokes are said to be preventable. Now, also, with all medical emergencies, early intervention is important, but perhaps even more so with stroke. How important is it to spot the signs early? What should we be looking out for?
See, first of all, I want to tell to all these people, everybody who's listening, that we must understand that stroke is a very serious disease. It carries high risk of disability and even death. But also we need to know that stroke is highly treatable disease as well. Its treatment is time dependent because majority of the stroke, if they come immediately in the hospital and they can be recruited, they can be triaged for certain forms of the treatment. The major form of there are two major forms of the acute stroke treatment. One is the clot busting medication, and another one in which we mechanically take this clot out if it is seen on the scan that is occluding thrombus or clot in the brain. These both treatment are highly time dependent because they can give maximum benefit if these treatments are started within certain time window.
And is it simply something like, say, for instance, driving your car without coolant? It will drive okay for a very short period of time, but if you keep driving, the engine will be beyond repair. If you spot the warning signs early, the worst of the damage can hopefully be avoided. It's kind of just like that for the human body.
Absolutely. The basic thing about it that when I see my patients on my post-call round, I keep asking them certain questions like that about their views about stroke, whether they knew that if it was a stroke, who did they call after that stroke. Especially I ask those questions those who are late presenter. Now, it is very, very important that everybody should be aware of the typical signs and symptoms of stroke. Like typical signs and symptoms of stroke, when we say that, like sudden onset of weakness or numbness of the face, or drooling of the face on one side, weakness or numbness of the arm or leg or even both, sudden onset of loss of vision, if somebody starts to suddenly develop problem with the speech like slurring of the words, if somebody develops suddenly problems with the balance, unable to walk properly, or dizziness, if either of these symptoms, not necessarily everybody will have all these symptoms together. Some may have one of these symptoms, some may have more than one of these symptoms, some may have all these symptoms. But the most important thing among all these things that if somebody develops these symptoms, they must seek medical attention immediately.
Yeah, because sometimes, doctor, when I've been speaking to people, someone said, no, I'll be all right, I'll sit down and I'll be fine, we'll see how it is in an hour and then I might do something. What you're saying is these are massive, big red flags from your body. Do not try and talk them away. Dispel any fear you might have of a hospital. You need to address this as soon as is possible because your outcome is greatly affected by how quickly you get seen.
Exactly. And not only that, even if these symptoms are resolved, still you have to come to the hospital immediately because in that case, maybe we are dealing with minor stroke. Now, minor stroke is a window to open for the large stroke. So that if the patient is coming to the hospital, we are starting them on risk factor modification treatment, that window for large stroke will be ultimately closed. So he will not have any major damage then.
Okay. What is happening in a stroke? Like in my mind, it's like a lump in your blood traveling through your system and eventually it hits a blockage. Can you talk to me about what is happening,
So it's you can say that a blood clot. A blood clot forms at certain points. So there are the different risk factors. Like one of the general risk factors, like patient is obese, patient is having lack of physical activity, patient is not eating healthy diet, patient is diabetic, patient is having high cholesterol, patient is having high blood pressure, or stressful life. These all actually means increasing the risk of clot formation. Ultimately, these clots actually starts making the problems with the blood vessels which are going to the brain, to the heart. And those then small clots which are around the walls of the blood vessel, they can detach and go up in the brain. And it depends on the size of the clot, that artery will be blocked. So the smaller clot will go to the smaller artery, so patient will have less symptoms. Bigger clot will go to the bigger artery, patient will have more symptoms. Now, not only that, but there are the certain degree of the certain forms of the clots which are actually being generated in the heart, especially in the patients who are having problems with their heart condition, like irregular heart rhythm of the patients who had a heart attack recently. They can also generate the clots in the heart, and that can directly travel to the brain and can result in the large stroke. So if somebody is developing having a risk of heart disease or recurrent palpitations, we call, they also must speak to their doctors and see that if they are assessed.
And I presume anyone who is suffering that should seek medical advice. But presumably, if some of if your physique or your lifestyle is as we've been discussing, or people of a certain age, should certainly take them even more seriously, as serious as we all should take them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, when you talk about, and someone's mentioned this on text here, Doctor, between issues like this about getting our blood pressure checked, cholesterol checked, also obviously we need to go and get screening, and we can get blood tests that can show early signs of other conditions and diseases. I mean, like, so many lives could be saved and so much heartache could be avoided if we treated ourselves like we do our cars. I mean, we religiously, every 1 year or 2 year, NCT our vehicles. If we were doing the same to ourselves, there'd be so many different outcomes you'd have to imagine.
Exactly. I mean, once you can imagine the burden of disability overall, okay, not on personal basis to that person's overall mood, overall behavior, and overall means their well-being, but as a whole. So we can see that if number of disabilities can be reduced from stroke, how will be the positive outcome in the community we are looking into. So we have to look into the longer picture. It's not only that we are looking at that acutely managing the stroke, but while managing acute stroke, we are actually looking into the longer picture that we are trying to reduce the disabling effects of the stroke. And this is what actually why the stroke unit we were struggling for, that to open the stroke unit, to minimize that damage so that patient's care will be more centralized, more streamlined, and in the more abrupt fashion, more immediately, that the risk of the disability can be reduced.
A caller says, do you need to sit through the ED if you experience symptoms, especially if you have diabetes? I imagine you're triaged and they will direct you. That is an absolute emergency, and the sicker you are, the quicker you get treated. Presumably, if you're presented with some of the symptoms that we're talking about, you would be fast-tracked, Doctor.
Absolutely. So it is very much on means our protocol is that if somebody coming with stroke type symptoms, we call it FAST positive, F-A-S-T, face, speech, and then like time. So we call it FAST positive, and they are triaged immediately by the emergency department, and they are being seen by the medical department also on urgent basis. And then after first line treatment in emergency department, they will be transferred to our stroke unit, where the further treatment will be continued.
All right, Doctor, listen, thanks for that conversation. It's been informative, and it sort of went beyond, the more than we normally talk about. So I appreciate you engaging with me on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Okay, that's Dr. Ashtok Maimon there, who is consultant stroke physician at Letterkenny University Hospital. I don't know if some of us don't like talking about that stuff, but, we can't avoid it either. And then we end up having to pick up the pieces if we bury our heads in the sands. Okay. I'm wondering what people's opinions are about why is everything in Carndonagh closing. We mentioned that yesterday. We didn't get any bites on that, to be honest with you. A caller lives in Carragart. I did the same thing. Changed over to Vodafone. It was a nightmare from day one. We had broadband and no phone line. My mum's personal alarm was attached to it. She fell and was able to call for help. They were going to give me another number. I rang the company I was previously with, and they took us back for about 4 weeks. It was a nightmare. I wouldn't recommend change to anyone. But we have to change to get better value. So there's a balance to be struck. We need assurances and guarantees from these companies maybe before we sign on the dotted line. I don't know, but we can't allow the fear of a bad service to leave us stuck paying 93 quid or €89 to these companies when we can get the same services for much less. So we have to find some balance in between there. Okie doke, let's take a break. We'll have a piece of music too. And Kieran O'Donnell's going to be joining us, giving us a run through of some of the business news across the region and beyond, and also telling us what's coming up on the Highland Radio Business Matters podcast. There's plenty to keep you entertained for the next 37 minutes.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
If you've got magic moments or great memories captured on your smartphone, bring your photos to life with McGee's Chemist. Just download their new photo app called McGee's Photo Prints in the Play Store for Android phones and the iOS Store for iPhones. You can also order online at onlinephotoprinting.ie, with your photos then delivered direct to your door. Preserve your memories today with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny, where the best costs less.
Joe Gallagher Entertainments present Rock and Roll Legends Show Waddy Waddy at Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny, Thursday, 9th of June. Tickets on sale now from hotel reception, ticketmaster.ie and Joe Gallagher Entertainments. Show Waddy Waddy live at Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny, Thursday, 9th of June.
There was a monster who lived in the trees, in the house that would rattle and shake in the breeze. It was cold and small, with a terrible leak that would drip on her head and her hands and her beak. She needed it fixed and all in one batch because she had an egg that was ready to hatch. So she went to the credit union for a renovation loan and got new windows, insulation, and extended her home. Monster loans from the credit union. Imagine more. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. If you do not meet the repayments on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future. Credit unions in the Republic of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Okay, there is Garth Brooks Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up. Warming you up maybe if you're heading down to see him in September. As thousands of people from Donegal will be. Right, no good news from this texter, unfortunately, but we appreciate the info. I work in the oil industry, he says, or she says, and by next week, Donegal petrol will be between, wait for it, and we'll see if this person is right or wrong, between €2.17 and €2.20. This is what an insider in the industry says petrol will be in Donegal next week. That means your minimum fill, I think we all have that figure we put in. It used to be 10 or 20 or whatever it might be. So if the minimum fill is 5 litres now, you'll have to spend, €11 just as the absolute minimum to keep your car running. Right, okay. I would like to say hopefully that's not going to be the case, but I suspect they are correct. Thank you for having Patricia on to highlight the problem of abuse of older people. The services for support for older people is minimal, and it is a scandal. And listen, that's laid bare and in very strong words in that report, just reading through the headline elements of it. My son has ADHD, went to CAMS, tried everything, then changed diet, less sugar and a load of exercise. Didn't fix the problem, but definitely calmed him down. 18 now, soon. Still has his days, but a lot calmer if not drinking Coke or eating rubbish every day. So in relation to that listener we had, and it might not seem like it might help, but listeners' experience of reducing sugar intake and as the younger person gets older in this other person's situation, there is they calmed down a little bit for them. Greg, can you mention, please, the public consultation on parental alienation? It's now open by the Department of Justice, and it's vitally important that all mothers, fathers, children, now adults and grandparents who've been subjected to this form of abuse make a submission on their story, noting that it will have to be anonymous if the case is in camera. Please visit the Department of Justice site. You'll follow the links there. Go into justice.ie and I can't read the URL, but because it's too long, but you should be able to find it on that website there. Right, okay, let's take a break. Kieran's going to be joining us very soon, and as I say, we've more interesting items for you right on the way.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Is your bank leaving town? Letterkenny Credit Union is now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features with no appointment necessary to open your account.
The Saturday Stretch, Week 5, is here. Every Saturday throughout June, visit Oakfield Park Rafo from 12 noon until late. This week, there's Tanya McCall live in the Stretch tent with later running trains, food specials in Buffer's Restaurant, craft beers and wines, and live music from different acts each week. It's the perfect family day out. Normal gate fees apply, no booking required. Season Pass and Gold Pass holders enter free. That's the Saturday Stretch at Oakfield Park.
We're all faced with things going up these days, but you'll still find amazing value every single day at Aldi. And you could save over €70 on your big family shop when compared to one of our nearest competitors. Nearest and dearest indeed. So don't change your lifestyle, change your supermarket. Aldi, every day amazing. Comparisons against products sourced in SuperValue 28th of March 22. Lowest pro rate used and offers excluded. For full details, see aldi.ie.
Okay, open wide there. Perfect. Let's have a look at these teeth.
A range of treatment benefits are available to employed, self-employed and retired people who have the required number of PRSI contributions. Some benefits are free, like eye tests and dental checkups, while for others you receive a contribution towards the treatment, such as for hearing aids or wigs. And now, if you are 25 to 28 years old, the number of contributions you need has been reduced. Find out more at gov.ie/treatment benefit. The Treatment Benefit Scheme. It's there for your benefit. A Government of Ireland initiative brought to you by the Department of Social Protection.
A caller says that doctor's talk on strokes and clots was clear and concise and informative. Thank you very much indeed. I actually found it useful as well because, I'm a presenter, but I'm also a listener at the same time. So, yep, I definitely get what you're saying. Right, okay. Let me see. Facebook comment as it relates to our earlier conversation. Effectively, they're saying they don't have a unit for ASD. That's off the back of the story we talked about, the services in that school in Buncrana. All right.
Business Matters in association with the Faculty of Business at ATU Donegal. The part-time Level 8 Honours degree in Business is delivered through a mix of online and face-to-face lectures. Email execedbusiness@lyit.ie. That's EXECED business at lyit.ie or call 9186206.
All right, that jingle means one of two things. A, I've pushed the wrong button, or B, Kieran O'Donnell joins us for Business Matters, and I'm delighted to say it is the latter. Hiya, Kieran.
Good morning, Greg.
How are you keeping?
Very swift this morning.
Yeah, I saw you running. I saw you running in on the. I thought you were getting your laps up there. I saw you running in on the security camera. What did you forget in the car?
Just my glasses.
Oh, your glasses. It's always the glasses, isn't it? Well, listen, you are resplendent and bespectacled, and it's good to have you with us. Right, let's start with some news before we talk about the podcast and big news for Carndon, a significant development.
Yes, Greg. Planning permission has been granted to Lidl to build a new store in Carndon. The €7 million investment will see the creation of around 30 new jobs. Now, the store will be located on Station Road and will form part of an adjoining development with McLaughlin's Home Value. McLaughlin's have traded in Carndon for over 60 years and propose relocating to a standalone purpose-built facility adjacent to the proposed Lidl store.
Good stuff. The middle aisle is still a thing, isn't it? Are you a middle aisle man?
I'm no wild man if I can avoid it.
Okay. Start your own business programme. Talk to us about that.
Yes, Donegal Local Enterprise Office's Start Your Own Business programme will commence on Tuesday next, that is June the 6th at 6 p.m. The Local Enterprise Office is making the programme available to online to help reach those budding entrepreneurs who they may feel isolated or restricted. So a total of 8 sessions are planned over the next 5 weeks, with each session beginning at 6 and concluding at 9:30 p.m. More information on this course is available from Joanne Kilmartin at joanne.kilmartin@leo.donegalcoco.ie or on the Donegal Local Enterprise Office social media platform.
Great to see the Busking Festival back, and it's great to see it back when, you know, it'll be able to be enjoyed by the maximum amount of people and in the same way. It's a great thing, I think, for, you know, we had on Monday Night Sessions, Paul and was on, and Jimmy, of course. They had a young band. You know, not everyone's taste in music. They were loud and noisy, but it was really good stuff, I thought. You know, it's bands like that get opportunities at the busking festivals and others as well. And now we're going to be able to have lots of people and all the ancillary stuff to go with it. It's coming up, isn't it, Kieran?
Yeah, it's a great platform, Greg, as you say, for young up-and-coming performers. Letterkenny Chamber of Commerce is now accepting applications for the 2022 Busking Festival that takes place on Saturday, July the 30th. So check out the Letterkenny Chamber's social media platforms for application form and more details.
Yeah, I think it's going to be bigger and better than ever. Okay, huge part of our offering for the tourists and locals as well are some of our ferry services, our seasonal ones. Tell us what's the story there.
Yeah, I heard Michaela mention this on the news earlier on. Greg, Donegal County Council has announced that Loch Foyle ferry service linking Greencastle and McGilligan and the Swilly ferry service connecting Buncrana and Rathmullen will both be fully operational from today. So both ferries will operate 7 days a week, and for further information on timetables and fares, go to lochfoyleferry.com or swillyferry.com.
None of us are immune to the effects of inflation, and it's hitting us too on the basics, literally just going in to feed our families.
Yeah, look, the story has been building, I suppose, over the last number of weeks, Greg, and you've touched on it a number of times on your show. Grocery inflation has hit 5.5%, and that's marking the first time it has risen above 5% since August 2013, which is quite significant. New research carried out by Kantar shows that shoppers are changing their buying behaviour to manage the cost of buying food, including turning to cheaper alternatives. The Kantar say that people are now making 4 fewer trips to the supermarket on average per month than they were this time last year. And just staying with supermarkets for the 6th consecutive period this year, Dunn's retained its position as the country's biggest retailer and holds a 22.3% share of that market.
Interesting. Of course, all of these increases are off the back of the sanctions, really, which the EU is imposing on Russia. And, you know, I've been reading quite a bit on this, as everyone should. The sanctions really aren't impacting Russia at all, in that Vladimir Putin is going to persist with this. And there is a bit of a consensus that really they're sitting back and going, you know, the Europeans are crippling themselves right from the very top to the very bottom of society. He's got his war chest. The way that country is run, he has the ability to continue with what he is doing. So really, the sanctions, at least in the medium term, it's us that are being impacted. And it's not really, they say, some of the people that know more about this, that if you are going to disrupt what he's doing, it's through supporting the armed element of it, and that the sanctions really are not making a bit of difference. Anyway, listen, I don't think me and you were going to get into that convo at the moment, Kieran, unless you've got a view on it.
Well,
but, you know,
wheat and fuel are the two main things that are impacting. Fuel equals energy, and we all need energy to live. And I think there is a growing sort of, I suppose, concern that just people being able to afford the basics just to sort of get by at the minute, and that's growing. And there's no point in ignoring it. The same time,
and also too with what's going on over there as well, and it's not business related, it actually literally breaks my heart. And I think anyone with particularly, I think it's mostly young men, like, they're being sent in their thousands, the Ukrainians and the Russians, into the east there. And we all look back in history, and a lot of Irish people were the first sent over the line, and literally sacrificed on the front line. And I just think, when the dust settles on this and we start hearing more of the actual, the realities of war, we're going to see whole generations almost wiped out, being sent to their inevitable death to hold a line that was always going to be broken. Now, I don't know what you do to resolve that, but there are families, thousands and thousands and thousands of families, and we don't know the numbers yet, both Russian and Ukrainian, and these young people are just being sent to their deaths. And then you ask, for what? And it's between that and then its impact on world hunger and its impact on general society, there's just, I don't know.
In the modern day, Greg, as a situation we never thought we'd actually be living through.
No, and it's just the loss of life and the impact on people's lives. There has to be another way. But unfortunately, to some extent, the Americans are insulated, they're insulated by what's going on here, and they can fight this proxy war with Russia and weaken the power of Putin. But again, at what cost, and for who and for what? And this is not in any way I'm suggesting that the Ukrainians should not be defending their land. That's not my point. But I don't see any other avenues to try and end this other than sending young men and women to their deaths. All right, okay, listen, sorry to digress, but as soon as we start talking about things like inflation and all, it makes me think of these people and their families, and it's just, it's devastating to me. Okay, right, let's talk about this week's podcast, because it's in the bag. You've done the work has been done. What's in it?
Yes, on this week's Business Matters, Greg, we have a special feature on the success of Errigal College students and the Bank of Ireland Money Smarts Challenge, and they'll also be talking to the owner of McGee's Pharmacy in Letterkenny, Jared McCormick. So last month, a team of fifth-year students from Errigal College in Letterkenny beat off stiff competition from 600 schools around the country to win the Bank of Ireland Money Smarts Challenge and scooped €15,000 for the Donegal ETB school in the process. So during a visit to Errigal College, I first spoke to two of the winning team, Lily and Jodie, school principal Danny McFadden and business teacher Evan Gorrell. And this clip, Evan told me that the winning of the national competition was a great way to end the school year.
We have a prize given this week as well, so it's great to be able to recognise the 4 students that made it to the national finals and won the national finals. Like, not to put anything over it, but this is an All-Ireland final at the end of the day. They are the top in their category for this sector, so in terms of financial literacy, which is an absolute fantastic achievement for Errigal College and for Donegal ETB. So now I'm just pure delighted with them, and I'm hoping now we'll go on next year and retain our title, maybe with a different cohort of students, but I'm hoping I can just carry that bit of, I suppose, pressure towards them, that they'll really buy into it, but as well that they'll carry that confidence that, well, we can do it, we're more than capable, and we can definitely compete against the top dogs of the country.
Okay, Kieran, and it's not just even you're talking to there, as you mentioned, there's a few of those involved in that element of the podcast.
Yeah, I talked to Danny McFadden, the principal, and I spoke to two of the students on the winning team as well, so good to get their views.
Nice, and it's good to get their voices heard and to celebrate that success. Right, now you talked about chatting to Mr. Jared McCormick.
I did indeed. Jared McCormick is the owner of McGee's Pharmacy on Main Street in Letterkenny. He began working as a pharmacist in the family-run business after graduating from the College of Pharmacy in 1983, and he took over the running of the long-established business in 2006. Jared, as we know, is also involved with Letterkenny Tidy Towns and Letterkenny Chamber of Commerce. In this clip, Jared recalls his first paid-for job in the family business 42 years ago.
It was Christmas, I was 10 years of age, and my job was very, very strict. It was every half an hour I had to go downstairs, and at that stage we used to have one big gondola inside the door, and then there was a smaller gondola further down. And my job was to go round the shelves and tidy up not to fill them, but to tidy up the shelves, make sure that everything was neat and tidy. And I used to be watching TV here just beside us, and then I'd be looking at the watch and I'd say, right, I have to go downstairs and tidy up, tidy, and back up again. And that was my first memory of my first paid job.
Is that one of the jobs you've passed on to your staff down the generations, and is that something you make sure that is still done, Jared?
Oh, definitely. It's it's part of retail. The saying, retail is detail. So it's making sure the place is spick and span and sharp. So that's in me. It's in retail.
Yeah. So it's not only the businesses, it's the people behind the businesses and the businesses of the future, the business people of the future. The full interviews with Jared McCormick and that special feature on Errigal College's success in the Bank of Ireland Money Smarts Challenge are both available for you now as part of the One podcast, of course, on highlandradio.com in the playback section and on Spotify and iTunes, also on the radio, on the airwaves, Kieran.
Yeah, we'll be broadcast on Sunday evening, Greg, after the 6 o'clock news.
All right, and if anyone wants to contact you or the show,
yeah, just drop me an email, please. businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
Okay, Kieran, look forward to seeing you next Wednesday, all being well. Enjoy your week, enjoy the longer weekend. And what did you think of the Donegal game?
I thought we were going to get away with it.
Well, seriously, now be careful now.
Seriously,
you can't say anything negative, so watch yourself.
I was really disappointing.
Yeah.
Look, it came down. I played out along expected lines. It was extremely tactical, but I suppose the late drama with the close range free. We were talking the way down with Brenda Berry in the car on the way back. What if that had taken a deflection and went in, or the rebound?
Was he very chatty in the car?
Well, we talk a lot. We listen a lot too. But look, it wasn't to be, and I suppose from the reaction from the Derry supporters, I mean, it's 20.
You wouldn't begrudge them their day.
23 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the whistle wasn't blown 30 seconds. The most of the Clonus turf was just a wash with red and white and flyers. So look, it's their day. But look, we're not gone yet.
No, still in it.
We have the back door and the draw, I think, will be made this Monday. So look, we're still in the championship, and hopefully we still have a lot of fun.
In the back door, would you want an easy game just to get back to winning ways, or would you say stuff it right?
We need two ways. There's a possibility we could end up playing Armagh or Tyrone. We could end up playing Monaghan or Mayo.
No easy games there.
So, but look, I suppose in the last couple of years, I was just thinking that we didn't have the fallback of the back door. So this year, the back door's there, and hopefully we'll give it a good go.
Good stuff. Fingers crossed, Kieran. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great day. Back after these.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard. Bringing full banking features. Delivered with the same local, trustworthy service of your credit union.
Since she got her free hearing aids with her PRSI at Specsavers, Roisin is a changed woman. Music has never sounded better, and that makes her dance. And dance. And dance. Her singing, though, well...
Free hearing aids with PRSI at Specsavers. Music to your ears. Find out more online. Terms and conditions apply. If you're 65 or over, or you have a weak immune system, you can now get your second COVID-19 booster vaccine. Your vaccine is due 4 months after your last vaccine. It will improve your protection from COVID-19. You can book a vaccination centre appointment on hsc.ie or contact a participating GP or pharmacy. For more information on your second booster or to book an appointment, visit hsc.ie or call our team in HSE Live on 1800 700 700. From the HSE, for us all.
iMotors Nissan, the place for award-winning range of vehicles including the Micra, Leaf, Duke, Qashqai and the all-new Nissan Ariya. There's a model to suit everyone. Call today or visit our website at imotors.ie for more details, or call 074 913 4567 to arrange a test drive.
Inish Tractor Run Sunday 5th of June. A charity auction plus barbecue on the spit. There's live music from 6 p.m. with Jimmy Buckley, Jim Devine, Liam McDermott and Shuni Crampsey. Proceeds to Cancer Care West and Donegal Hospice. That's Sunday 5th of June. Inish Tractor Run with live entertainment in the Marquee Malin Stables.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme. On to it now. We welcome Shane Brennan, Creative Director with Foe. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us, Shane.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Right, tell us what FOE is, by the way. Faux, I'm pronouncing it correctly, am I?
It's Faux, yeah. So at Faux, we're just a small creative studio that we specialize in production and brand activation. So kind of things that would be a bit more different to the norm, and we try and cut stuff different ways to try and help brands really access different communities that they're targeting.
Okay, and some recent research has shown that we have an own accent bias, or there's something to that theory. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so essentially we partnered with IRS Plus to look into this fact that is there an own accent bias or a local accent bias? Now, there is psychology of accent studies that have been done for years, and essentially there is generally perceived an own accent bias, whereas the fact that humans will focus on the prosody or enjoy the prosody of a similar accent to their own. Now, that's the stress, the rhythm, the intonation of an accent. And essentially what it results in is if you like how someone is saying something, you inadvertently like what they're saying. And that's because it accesses the emotion part of your brain. And it's a thing called affective processing. So you like one thing, it'll result in the other. Now, there's huge potential for this in advertising. And what we wanted to do was look into this and see if there was a way we could do some research to show brands the power of that local accent.
And does it matter whether the accent is broad or not, or?
Well, what we seem to find, so what we did was we ran our study in Donegal, Kerry, the Midlands and Southeast. We partnered with Nissan and we used their TV ad for the Qashqai. So what we did was we re-recorded the voiceover script for that ad and then ran them on YouTube in those areas, just targeting them to see how they compared versus the national ad. And what we saw was Donegal, Kerry had very strong results. In 25, 35-year-olds, there was 8% higher view rate. So 8% of people in that age group didn't skip the ad when they heard their own accent. Now, that could be the fact they were the strongest because we think potentially we were targeting a single county with an accent there versus the Midland region and the Southeast region. So what that kind of shows to us as for further research is maybe it's bringing it to as local as you possibly can.
What does this mean, though? What do you think we've learned from this?
So what I think we've learned from this, especially for the bigger brands in the FMCGs, the motors, the finance, those really ultra competitive markets, is that there's an opportunity for them to have their national campaign, but also when they want to, say, run on local radio and they want to really bring a national brand to a local community, that there's an opportunity to work with IRS Plus to localize their brand and how their brand sounds, and then they could see the benefit from that.
And I understand that. Listen, I work in a local radio, so I don't want to shoot myself in my own foot, but if I speak to my 16-year-old son, there's many different voices in his class, and I'm just wondering if I were someone who's lived here for 20 years but from a different country originally, and my accent is not a Donegal accent, and I'm listening to you saying that, it doesn't sound very progressive, you know, that especially in a very progressive Ireland, even if it's what the consumer wants. Is it really what the companies should want, that they should be rooting out certain accents for commercial benefit?
Well, I think you'll find that accents are important in voiceovers as already. Do you know what I mean? They go.
Yeah, there's probably not enough diversity
within
accents.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's probably not enough diversity of accents and voices to represent the population of Ireland, local and nationally at the moment, maybe.
I would completely agree. So what I think what this would do is when there's an opportunity to speak to a particular community, being able to get a diverse range of accents attached to a brand could just, I think that diversity is positive as opposed to it not being necessarily progressive, because the psychology around this comes from as early as 1-year-olds leaning towards accents that they're similar for, just in a slight positive way. So it's really trying to just capitalize on that positivity where possible and where it suits for a brand.
And presumably too, this is beneficial to these companies because they have marketing budgets. It's in their interest that those marketing budgets are spent wisely and reap results.
Yeah, completely. Now, I think what's an interesting place for these brands to go into is once they've ran their national campaign for a while and maybe it plateaus for them in terms of results, and they really want to revitalize that bit of creative and that asset. We think there's an opportunity for brands to start testing in this area to see if they can see an improvement or not, depending on the asset that they update.
Yeah, and some companies are good at this. Some companies are already doing this, aren't they?
Yeah, well, there's companies do this all the time with different access all around the world, and they kind of can be more localized. But where we're not seeing this necessarily is at a more smaller target area in Ireland. So what we really wanted to do is kind of get brands thinking about this, thinking what will actually work for them, and to ask the question: is it going to suit their brand? Is it something that's going to suit their budget? And is it something that's going to suit their targeting?
Yeah,
that's what's really important.
And to be honest, a slight annoyance I have with radio at the moment is that I think maybe sometimes this is not from advertisement perspective, but I think they think a certain accent gives more credence to something, to a product or an advert or a promo or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? That maybe it sounds, well, that sounds like, BBC Radio 1 in Britain, it must work here. And this type of evidence can translate across as well. It's not just in advertising that, people want to hear things that's more relatable.
And I think, and what's really interesting around that is there's a lot of psychology around that negative impact of different different accents on people, around that kind of more neutral BBC style, and how that works in. There's prejudice around assuming people's education, assuming where loads of things about them based on this. So it's kind of, once you move out of your own accent, there's an inclination to assume things, and people do that kind of inherently. So I guess what's important is, what I would love, and I think where it's really interesting, is to, when a brand is speaking to that local community, is to potentially be able to employ a local voice for it, and to see what type of impact that has for them.
And did you, what have you read into, if anything, the fact that Donegal and Kerry in particular, we have this accent bias?
Well, my assumption on that was based on the recording we ended up doing for the Midlands and the Southeast. Now, they were slightly more neutral. They had an inclination towards those areas as a more, I'm from the Midlands myself, but from a more Midlands area or more Southeast. But the Kerry and the Donegal accent were an awful lot more distinguishable for that particular county. And I think what really came from the benefit or the success of the campaign in those areas was the fact that we were targeting a single county as opposed to a region.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me, actually, because I do you know, some of the brands that it benefits most, finance, insurance, telecoms, they can be quite, humanless. I don't know what the right word I'm looking for. Do you know what I mean? They would benefit most from, presumably, their product being more relatable through this. It might be makes them, humanize them a bit more.
I completely agree. I think in those industries where they can be perceived as out of touch somewhat sometimes by the community, by different things, leaving towns and closing up, and it's by having this voice or having this tone, it's just might potentially be a beneficial way for them to be integrated into that community.
Yeah, maybe a little
and to
bit
feel
of,
part of it.
Where necessary, a little bit of reputational rehabilitation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I think so. I think that's a real rich area for them.
All right. And what kind of reaction have you had from the industry to this research yet? Or I suppose maybe you're just getting it out to the public, and you'll prepare some information for the various advertisers, etc.
Yeah, so what we've actually done is, so obviously we've gone out this week with it. We've made a little case study animation video as well to put out to explain it in very simple terms as to what this could mean for their brand and for them to get in touch with IRS Plus. But overall, anyone I've spoken to over the last couple of days have been very positive and very interested in it, because in advertising, it's so competitive. To find anything that can give an edge, the 1% is worth exploring.
Yeah, the 1% that just gives you that little, and it's provable, it's demonstrable. Okay, listen, Shane, thanks for that interesting stuff, and we'll see what comes from it. It's been great having you on the programme.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good morning to you. No, our pleasure. Shane Brennan there, Creative Director with Faux. 086 60 25,000 is the text line that remains open throughout the course of the day, but that's where we leave it on air for this programme. Thanks to Caroline and Donna Marie who worked on the show. Back with you tomorrow morning at 9. Stay tuned. John Bresson is on the way around the Northwest.